Chapter 5539. This person's tone and intonation were both so cold that it didn't seem like he was joking at all. Eldest young Master Qin's heart sank to the bottom of the valley as he gazed at his second brother's icy gaze. Second brother had probably really gone mad. From the test just now, he could tell that his second brother seemed to be much stronger than him in terms of both physical strength and ability. After all, he had already undergone 3 mutations after taking the level 5 mutated pill. Even eldest young master couldn't estimate to what extent his current Omega Kotoku had mutated. Because ever since he took the pill, second young master had never revealed any abnormalities in front of others. He still looked the same as usual. But eldest young Master Qin knew that he was probably completely different. Madame Jojo was still sitting in the cage expressionlessly. Suddenly, she called out crisply, "Eat." These 2 words were so untimely that the group of people who had been secretly on guard and were probably about to attack all turned to look at her in bewilderment. Eldest young Master Qin also quickly turned to look at her, tears surging in the depths of his eyes. Hurry, hurry and prepare the meal. His Jojo was so pitiful. Jojo must be extremely hungry. Otherwise, with her proud personality, how could she possibly give in to the enemy and say something like this? Oh, Yangsu couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He practically dashed out of the door and hurriedly left the battlefield to find someone to prepare the meal. To be honest, he felt that his thoughts were rather comical. No matter who it was that had their limbs broken and thrown into a cage, it was impossible for the young crown prince consort to be as calm and collected. Yes, this fellow was so calm that it made him so suspicious. He kept feeling that she was faking her broken limbs. After checking her pulse several times, he confirmed that not only were her limbs severely injured, even her veins and arteries showed signs of rupture. But she, was still thinking about eating at a time like this. Seeing eldest young master and the rest coming to rescue her, shouldn't her normal reaction be to hug eldest young master's leg and cry bitterly? The little crown princess reaction was simply completely out of the ordinary. If Arbor knew what he was thinking, he would definitely spit on his face. Who were they trying to trick? Didn't they know who Jojo was? How could she be tricked so easily? Of course, she was calm. She was the only one who knew that when her limbs were first broken, it did hurt a little. But right now, she didn't feel anything at all. Chocho had blocked her 5 senses and 6 senses. Not to mention pain, she wouldn't feel anything even if she was thrown into a cage and fiercely beaten up a few times. Moreover, she had secretly used her inner vision just now. The meridians in his body were in a mess. That was the effect of the bone-forging pill. If it was broken, how could it be reborn if it did not? Don't worry, she should be able to recover in a few hours. The key point was that after the bone-forging pill took effect, she didn't feel anything. She didn't know if it was because the pill itself was strange, or if it was because her body was strange. Or was it the effect of the shark pearl? Well, the mermaid pearl had been completely unsealed, and her body's bones and tendons were all broken. The mermaid pearl would naturally use all its strength to repair her. He wondered if there would be any conflict with the bone-forging pill. Jojo was a little suspicious. Forget it. Eating was the most important thing in the world. Let's talk about it after eating. The servants and maidservants that Yangsu had arranged to deliver food came in with a series of plates. Eldest young Sir Qin hastily took the bowl from one of the servants and planned to feed Jojo through the cage. Jojo, what do you want to eat? How about some porridge? Unexpectedly, Qin Xian walked up quickly and snatched the porcelain bowl from his hand. She said coldly, "Elder brother, there's nothing else for you to do here. Please leave." The eldest young sir angrily stood up to glare at her. Unfortunately, this was Crane Garden, second brother's territory. The other party had already rudely chased him away, so the eldest young sir could do nothing about it. "I'm fine. You guys can leave." The little stoic sat upright and still, replying expressionlessly. Fan Meng had just taken a step when the eldest young sir blocked her with his hand. Let's go. Even if they wanted to save Jojo, they had to come up with a foolproof plan first. If they couldn't do it openly, then they could only do it in secret. When young Sir Omega Kotoku saw those irrelevant people scram, his expression finally improved. Separated by that large orange-yellow iron cage, young Sir Omega Kotoku sat down in front of the little crown princess. He stirred the spoon in the bowl and gazed at her tenderly. Xiao Qiao, were you obedient today? Sir Jojo couldn't be bothered to respond to a pervert. If the other party was perverted, could she be more perverted than the other party? The answer was of course not. Xiao Qiao. Young Sir Omega Kotoku lowered his head and gently blew on the spoon before placing a spoonful of warm porridge into the cage. Did you know? I've always been looking forward to this day. To be able to sit here peacefully and chat with you. Arbor expressionlessly swallowed a mouthful of porridge. Seeing that she didn't refuse, the second young sir was even more delighted, and he reached out to stroke her head. Arbor gazed at him coldly. It had been 2 lifetimes, but when this person stroked her head, it still made her feel as if he was stroking a beloved pet. When he liked it, he would dote on it. When he didn't like it, he would kick it away and punish it ruthlessly. He was really cold and heartless. Drag them up, young Sir Omega Kotoku smiled as he fed Xiao Qiao another mouthful of porridge. Soon, the 2 brothers, Tang Quan and Tang Li, grabbed one of Long Chong and Long Min's legs, pulled Mu Xiaoxue over by her hair, and threw her down heavily. The 3 of them fell to the ground in a mess, their bodies trembling from the pain, and their eyes trembling with fear. Sir Jojo was still expressionless. What kind of expression could she have? Tianyun always liked to bite each other, so how could she be kind enough to stop him? She could only watch as if she were watching a show. There would always be an end to a show, and everything would eventually come to an end. Long Chong was already so scared that he curled up into a ball. He repeatedly kowtowed and begged for mercy, crying out, spare me, second young sir. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose. It's all her fault, it's all her fault. It's this woman who instigated me to come and cause trouble. I was ordered by someone. Mu Xiaoxue was shocked and frightened when she heard this. She was furious and raised her hand to slap Long Chong. What did you say? How dare you accuse me? If you didn't say that Arbor was locked up here, how would I know about these things with my status? It's all your fault, it's all your fault. Mu Xiaoxue climbed up a few steps and reached out to tear Long Chong apart. Long Chong hurriedly reached out and shook her off. He kowtowed to young Sir Omega Kotoku and cried, no, second young sir, it's all this woman who instigated me to come and cause trouble. She also snatched the whip from me. It's her, it's Mu Xiaoxue who wanted to whip the crown princess to death. Long Chong was hit in the chest by a force that shot at him. He rolled out and hit his head on the door sill. You're wrong. From today onwards, she's no longer the crown princess. Bring the thing in, young Sir Omega Kotoku coldly shouted. A terrifying aura rose from his gloomy eyes. Long Chong was so scared that his whole body trembled. When he turned around and saw the thing that was being carried in, he was so scared that he peed his pants and fell to the ground, unable to move. 2 disciples of the Heavenly Fate sect carried in an iron plate that was about 3 meters long and 2 meters wide. The grooves at the bottom were filled with the power of thunder and fire. One could imagine what it would be like to be pushed onto the plate. Young Sir Omega Kotoku's eyes flashed with a trace of madness as he coldly pointed at the plate. Tang Quan and Tang Li opened their mouths and laughed. They suddenly lifted Long Chong upside down and threw him onto the iron plate. For invisible barriers rose around the iron plate, trapping Long Chong in a space of 3 meters and 2 meters. Ah! Long Chong let out a series of terrifying screams. He seemed to have gone crazy as he stepped on the iron plate with his bare feet. He kept twisting his body and bouncing up and down, only to be slapped down by the barrier above his head. His entire body was sealed in an invisible barrier. He slapped the barrier back and forth but couldn't get out. He could only bounce up and down, trying to avoid the thunder and fire. His feet made a series of crackling sounds. The pain of having his skin and bones flayed was unbearable. The thunder and fire penetrated his body through the soles of his feet and rampaged through his body, wantonly destroying his bones, blood, and veins. Long Chang took out his only defensive spiritual artifact. But how could it be a match for the holy thunder? Young Sir Omega Kotoku controlled the holy thunder. This kind of thunder and fire was not something that a mere spirit realm cultivator could withstand. Young Sir Omega Kotoku turned to look at Arbor. He smiled and fed her another bite. "Jojo, is it fun?" Arbor looked at him expressionlessly. "Fun my ass." Arbor couldn't get used to seeing him like this. He turned to look at Mu Xiaoxue, who was trembling on the side and didn't dare to make a sound at all. He suddenly felt that he wasn't in the mood to take revenge on this quail-like woman. This woman had come so far that she was worse than a beggar on the street. What was the use of her joining the Heavenly Fate Society? Could she change her fate? Could she obtain a future? Nothing at all. If Mu Qingya's spirit was in heaven, she would definitely be angered to death again. "Qin Xin, the Qin family has been a pervert for a long time," Arbor said coldly. Young Sir Omega Kotoku's eyes lit up. Ever since Jojo was caught and thrown into the cage, she had lost interest in talking. It was rare for her to be so happy today, so he had to calm down and talk to her more. Therefore, it must be Long Chang's act of dancing on the iron plate that pleased his Charles. Arbor glanced at him. "Your family has been a pervert since your ancestor. I don't even need to guess to know that your ancestor is probably a good-for-nothing with no cultivation." Young Sir Omega Kotoku smiled gently at her and scooped another spoonful of porridge to her lips. "Jojo, have a few more mouthfuls." Arbor continued to be expressionless. "Mu Xiaoxue, do you know? Why is the Heavenly Fate Society called the Heavenly Fate Society?" Mu Xiaoxue, who had been huddled in a corner, suddenly realized that Arbor had called her out. She couldn't help but tremble violently. Mu Xiaoxue hurriedly knelt down and prostrated herself humbly on the ground. She kowtowed to Arbor and said, "No." She suddenly remembered what young Sir Omega Kotoku had said just now. Long Chang seemed to have angered the second young sir because he called her the crown princess. Mu Xiaoxue hurriedly changed her words. Miss Chiao. Please let me go this once. I swear, I won't dare to cause trouble for you in the future. I can eat vegetarian and pray to Buddha every day. I can light a lamp for Miss Chiao and pray for you. I can do it every day, every night. Saying things like taking revenge on her, killing her, and making her fall into eternal hell was just her own wishful thinking. Although her mother didn't have much ability, she was very good at reading people. She and Arbor were worlds apart. There was no way she could take revenge on him. When she entered Tianyun, she thought that she would be able to emerge as a new force and obtain a different life. She didn't expect that a good-for-nothing would be a good-for-nothing no matter where she went. So what if she took the mutated liquid and mutated pills? Other than her body becoming weak and her limbs becoming stiff, she really didn't have any special abilities. Mu Xiaoxue was scared. She was completely scared. She was afraid that if she continued like this, one day she would become an ugly corpse without her own thoughts and memories. She would become a member of Tianyun's army of thousands of corpse puppets, and one of the lowest level ones. She was only fit to be sent to the front line as a pitiful cannon fodder. For the past few nights, she had been tossing and turning, thinking about what Mu Qingya said to her before she died. Xiaoxue, you can't beat her. When Mu Xiaoxue thought of this, she couldn't help but cry. Even though this woman's limbs were broken, her veins were broken, and she was locked in this cage. Yet, he still looked so lofty and insufferably arrogant. Indeed, she couldn't beat her. In this lifetime, even if she had a few more lifetimes, she still wouldn't be able to beat her. Miss Chiao, please let me go. The grudges between you and my mother have nothing to do with me. Mu Xiaoxue lay on the ground, not caring about her crying face. She couldn't stop crying and sobbing, as if she wanted to vent all the pain and hurt she had suffered in this lifetime. Arbor looked at her coldly. She didn't say to let her go, nor did she say to grant her wish. She only said indifferently, Mu Xiaoxue, your mother truly protected you too well. Naive, pure, and foolish. If Mu Qingya hadn't died, she could have continued to live comfortably. Unfortunately, Mu Qingya had died, and before she died, she was angered to the point of vomiting blood by Mu Xiaoxue. Let me tell you, Arbor said coldly. The reason Tianyun is called Tianyun. That's because their Qin family's ancestors, were sick. They wanted to follow Tianyun's fortune and prosper. They wanted to become the master of this world and change the people's fates. Or rather, they started from changing their own fates and developed to today's situation. Since the heavens are heartless, then let Tianyun take their place and rule over all things in the world. Did you know? They thought they could look down on all living things from high above. Young Master Omega Kotoku raised his eyebrows and looked at Arbor with a smile in his eyes. The little stoic sat there expressionlessly and said indifferently, concoct a drug that can allow ordinary people to watch themselves gradually turn from an ordinary person into a noble person with special abilities. That's right. Even if you were born an ordinary person, you can still become a superhuman who follows Tianyun's fortune and become a powerhouse, right? Why is this world so unfair? Why are some people born with outstanding talent, while others have nothing and can't even open their mystic meridians and walk on the path of cultivation? You have hope after eating Tianyun's mutated pill. Mu Xiaoxue looked at her in astonishment, feeling a bit panicked. She felt that what Arbor said next would probably be very cruel. She shook her head repeatedly, and her body involuntarily trembled as she retreated until she reached the corner of the wall. She wished she could wrap herself up and never see the light of day again. But do you think they made this kind of medicine completely for the good of the common people? No. This kind of medicine has very serious after-effects. Your mother was in the know and even more so a user. You only saw that she obtained some abilities, but you didn't know that the mutation in her body was also very painful. Only 1 in a million people can obtain rare special abilities and become a powerhouse without paying any price. But the vast majority of them will only walk the path of an incurable walking corpse. Or perhaps, even if they were like your mother, who mutated once or twice and obtained a special ability, they still couldn't change the fact that their body was gradually deteriorating. Mu Xiaoxue, your mother couldn't control her body at all because of that kind of medicine, which was why she self-rotted step by step. She didn't want you to follow in her footsteps. She always wanted to fish you out of the big dye vat that is Tianyun. Arbor sneered. But how did you let her down? Sir Jojo looked at the woman sitting paralyzed on the ground with pity, and his gaze coldly swept over her body. I guess you also discovered recently that your body is a bit strange. You will soon be like your mother, rotting step by step, stiffening step by step, and step by step becoming a monster that you don't even know. Mu Xiaoxue kicked her legs and huddled in the corner, screaming involuntarily, Arbor, why you have a way to save me, don't you? Probably. Arbor nodded. After Mr. Su and Fairy Huang He's third stage of the medicine trial, the preliminary effect was estimated to have reached the stage of control and gradual healing. However, why should she save Mu Qingya's daughter? Mu Xiaoxue was courting death step by step, and it was Arbor who added fuel to the fire and gave her a push. Sir Jojo stared at Mu Xiaoxue, who was crawling over, and said indifferently, Tianyun coldly watched as you stupid people walked into the trap step by step. They were excited, wild, and incomparably excited. Because finally, they felt that they had become the ones who followed the will of the heavens, and could completely replace the heavenly Tao. They are the heavens, and you are a bunch of pitiful ants. If Tianyun wants you to live, you will live, and if Tianyun wants you to die, you will die. Do you know? All of this is just a game for them. Arbor couldn't help but laugh coldly. These ordinary civilians who pursue power, and those cultivators who were cultivated by them, mutated successfully, and then slowly decayed and died step by step. Do you know what these two types of people look like in the eyes of Tianyun's higher-ups? Like a joke. Civilians want to become cultivators, and cultivators want to obtain more supreme power. In the end, they fight back and forth and reach the same goal by different means. They will all die. As for the All-Seer's ancestors and their higher-ups, they coldly watched as you fools put on a great show that shocked the heavens and made ghosts and gods weep. Mu Xiaoxue was stunned, and Long Min was also completely dumbfounded. If Mu Xiaoxue was an ordinary civilian who desperately wanted to obtain power, then she, Long Min, was a cultivator who wanted to obtain further power. What did Arbor mean by this? That they would all reach the same goal by different means, and would all die? No, impossible, this liar was simply lying, wasn't he? Clap, clap, clap. Clap. Omega Kotoku couldn't help but laugh and clap his hands, nodding and praising, my little Qiao is still the smart one, seeing through things clearly. His eyes were strange, and there was a light green ripple in the depths of his bright eyes. Little Qiao, don't worry, now everything is over. What you said was originally the ancestors' plan. His decision, after so many years, can't keep up with today's era. Moreover, it has nothing to do with us, the younger generation. I will disband the entire Tianyun, for you. For you. Second young Master Qin's eyes rippled like jadeite ripples, rippling like clear water. Arbor looked at him coldly, but he didn't care at all. Because he had long been used to this little cold face, and it was fine once he got used to it. Someone come. Omega Kotoku waved his hand, and had people carry down Long Chang, who had long been roasted into a piece of charcoal by the thunder fire. Tang Quan and Tang Li went to drag Long Min and Mu Xiaoxue. Long Min didn't make a sound, she knew that begging for mercy was useless. But Mu Xiaoxue wailed like a ghost and wailed like a wolf, twisting her body with all her might, shouting harshly, Arbor, Arbor, you can't do this to me. I am your cousin. I am connected by blood, you can't do this, let go, let go. Tang Quan and Tang Li saw that her screams were unpleasant to the ears, so they walked up, planning to stuff her mouth with a rag. Mu Xiaoxue struggled to break free from Tang Quan and flew to Arbor's cage, her hair disheveled as she kowtowed, muttering crazily, let me go, okay? Let me go, let me go. I'll stay far away from you, I'll never seek revenge on you, I'll never seek revenge on you. You're so annoying. Omega Kotoku suddenly raised his hand, and Mu Xiaoxue seemed to be pulled up by an invisible hand. She was suspended in the air, stretching out two pale hands, struggling to pull in the air. Her mouth was wide open, and her tongue was sticking out. It was as if an invisible rope was strangling her neck, so much so that she couldn't breathe smoothly. It was too painful. Her breathing slowly weakened, and Mu Xiaoxue's eyes gradually bulged, the blood vessels on her forehead almost bursting. Xiao Qiao doesn't want to talk to you at all, why do you keep bothering her? Omega Kotoku tilted his head and glared at Mu Xiaoxue angrily. He then turned to Arbor and said, Xiao Qiao, if you don't want her to die so easily, I can help you think of a good way. Arbor felt his heart turn cold, and he didn't want to respond at all. Second young Master Qin suddenly swatted Mu Xiaoxue, who was suspended in midair, like a kite with a broken string. She was sent flying by his palm and landed harshly outside the door. Zhao Qiran, who had wanted to step through the door, pulled back her embroidered shoes. Her eyes flashed, and she slowly retracted her leg. She looked down and saw Mu Xiaoxue lying on the ground, dying. The veins on her head were bulging, and her eyes were horribly bulging. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if they were about to burst. It was a frightening sight. The two young maidservants following behind Zhao Qiran shrieked in fright at her terrifying appearance. "Shut up," Zhao Qiran coldly reprimanded, making the two impudent servant girls shut up. Omega Kotoku glanced at Jojo through the cage and suddenly threw out a jade talisman. A stream of light swiftly entered Mu Xiaoxue's body. Zhao Qiran subconsciously took a few steps back, and her fingers clenched slightly under her sleeves. Mu Xiaoxue, who had been lying on the ground, struggled with her limbs with a twisted expression, and suddenly shrank inch by inch. Not long after, a grayish piglet crawled out of the pile of tattered clothes, shaking its big ears, and crawled behind Zhao Qiran in horror. The two servant girls behind Zhao Qiran shrieked again and retreated in fright, crying out, "Miss, miss." Omega Kotoku's thin lips curled into a sneer, and he sent out a stream of holy power to shroud the gray piglet. "What are you doing?" Arbor didn't expect Omega Kotoku to do this. He used the transformation talisman to turn Mu Xiaoxue into a piglet, and now he used holy power to seal her appearance. In this world, how many people could break the seal of his holy power? In other words, if this seal was not broken, even if the effect of the transformation talisman faded, the unlucky Mu Xiaoxue would still continue to live in the form of an animal. Unless the seal of Omega Kotoku was broken, there was no other way. Before Arbor could say anything to stop him, Omega Kotoku reached into the cage and grabbed Jojo's chin. "Xiao Qiao, I don't want to hear you refuse. This will make me mistakenly think that you will be soft-hearted to others. You've never been soft-hearted to me, and now you're soft-hearted to others." Omega Kotoku's cold voice drilled into Arbor's ears, and her heart inexplicably tightened. "I'll be very angry," second young Master Qin muttered in his sleep and turned around to stand up. Narrowing his eyes, he raised his hand, and several bolts of lightning and fire landed beside that gray piglet with a swish. It frightened her into squealing and circled around Zhao Qiran and the two maidservants' legs. Her four hooves missed, and she fell down the steps. When the piglet got up, she discovered that her hind hooves seemed to be injured, but Mu Xiaoxue didn't dare to stay here any longer in order to save her life. She hurriedly limped outside. Omega Kotoku didn't call for anyone to stop her. He turned around and chuckled at Arbor. "Xiao Qiao, is it fun? Fun your head." Zhao Qiran lowered her head slightly and took a few steps forward to bow. "Young master." The ground suddenly shook violently. Long Min's charred corpse abruptly rolled down from the metal plate. Zhao Qiran's eyelids twitched when she saw the bones fall to the ground with a crisp crack. Arbor's small body in the cage also swayed slightly, and her eyes lit up. As a great talisman master, she knew very well that this shaking meant that the flying talisman array had been attacked from the inside. Her calculations were correct. Mo Lien and the others should have followed the city the moment it flew into the air. It was just that they had been looking for the array core, so they didn't meet up with her. Even Mo Lien and the others would need to spend a certain amount of time to completely break open this formation. As long as someone destroyed this flying talisman array, the entire rising city would still fall back down. It was just that the falling process might not be so beautiful. Lady Jojo was excited. She silently calculated the time it would take for someone to destroy the array, the time it would take for her body to recover after forging her bones, and everything after that. After calculating in her mind, she said to Chochio, "Can you contact Jojo's lotus?" "Master, Chochio can try, but it will take some time." After all, although Great Crown Prince and the others had a branch clone of Chochio, they were still isolated from all kinds of talisman arrays. It would take time to contact them. "Okay." Arbor discussed with Chochio in her conscience for a while before looking up at Qin Xian. Second young master's expression suddenly changed, and he stared at the door with a malicious expression. He abruptly turned around. Jojo immediately put on her unchanging stoic face and faced him. "Little Jojo," he said softly to her, "wait for me." Lady Jojo cursed inwardly, "Who wants to wait for you, you pervert?" However, her expression did not change, and she even obediently nodded at him. This action of nodding truly pleased second young master. His icy expression softened in an instant. He looked at her and said with a smile, "Very soon." Then, he led Tang Quan, Tang Li, and the others out. Zhao Qiran clenched her fists and gave Arbor a deep look. In the end, she did not say anything and turned to leave with second young master. Seeing that everyone had finally left, Arbor could not help but sigh in relief. She sat in the cage, but secretly sped up the recovery of her body. Fortunately, her 5 senses had been blocked, so she did not feel any pain. Thus, outsiders could not see the slightest change in her expression. On the other hand, alchemist Ouyang had wanted to check her pulse, but he gave Lady Jojo a fright. If he were to check her pulse now, the true condition of her body would be exposed. After all, her body had been rapidly recovering, and it was much better than it was 15 minutes ago. Fortunately, before Ouyang Su could begin the examination, second young master sent someone to call her away. Presumably, Tang Quan, Tang Li, and the others had also been injured in the process of stopping people from breaking the array. Thankfully, alchemist Ouyang finally had something to do and did not have to watch her 24 hours a day. The earth shook, but the cage stood firm. Arbor rocked occasionally in the cage, but she was in a very good mood. Looking at this speed, Jojo's lotus would probably break through the array soon. The flying city was about to descend rapidly. Before that, shouldn't Lady Qiao Qiao make some preparations? "What are you doing?" Dugu Ling's low and cold voice came from outside. Arbor listened carefully and suddenly realized that the group outside had begun to move. Chapter 55-40. Sir Jojo was a person who could clearly distinguish between kindness and hatred. In the end, he still couldn't harden his heart and view them as celestial luck bandits and kill them all. Arbor entered the star domain and hurriedly recovered. In such a tense situation, having the time flow 12 times faster was a great help to her. In less than half an incense's time outside, Arbor completely recovered in the star domain. It was just that fusing with the last strand of soul thought fragment took a little longer. Fortunately, with the help of holy water and holy earth, Arbor finally finished fusing it. Seeing her open her eyes and jump up energetically, Qiuqiu couldn't help but wave its 2 tree branches and excitedly jump towards her. "Master, Master." Tears streamed down Qiuqiu's face. "You've suffered, Master. That's great." Now that little Masta's bones had been refined and reborn, her body had become holy bones. Even if it was holy wood, it couldn't hurt little Masta at all. Now, little Masta was like an unkillable cockroach. Even if she was attacked by 5 holy spirits at the same time, they couldn't completely destroy her body. Ah, no, no, no. How could Masta be so unlucky to be attacked by 5 holy spirits? At least he. Little earth, little water, and the crown prince's holy fire couldn't possibly attack Masta. Arbor blinked and suddenly said, "How is everyone now?" "The battle outside is very intense. Be careful when you go out, Masta. The array core is almost destroyed. The earth is shaking outside." I'm talking about Fan Meng, Qin Xian, and the others. When Feng Changqing and the others went out, they saw Fan Yu, the 7 flowers, and young Master Song Feng. They were all injured, but it wasn't serious. The most troublesome thing is that Fan Meng's lightning and fire injuries need to be treated. But don't worry, Master. We've temporarily kept them in a nameless planet to raise them. With little earth and little water's help, Fan Meng should be fine. As for that eldest young Master Qin, Qiuqiu said solemnly, when we went out, he and Omega Kotoku were gone. Arbor hurriedly brought the little Treant out of the star domain and hurriedly said, then Jojo's Lotus and the others, boom. Before he could finish his sentence, the entire ground shook violently. Moreover, the floor tiles under the cage began to crack like a spider web, spreading out inch by inch. Little Master, don't move. Chio exclaimed. She had a feeling that if the little Master Silver moved, she might fall down along with the broken ground. Xiao Mu expressionlessly looked at the startled Chio. I can fly. Chio blinked its round dog eyes. Oh, that's right. Even if Master Silver couldn't fly, she could still use the flying talisman. At most, she could fly with the cage. Chio really had groundless fears. As he spoke, the ground shook violently a few more times. A figure stumbled through the door and hurriedly pushed the cage to get out. Arbor couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He looked at the man who was struggling outside for a long time and didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Oh Yangsu, you'd better run away quickly. No, this room is going to collapse very soon. Alchemist Oh Yangsu didn't have any cultivation, so it was truly a bit difficult for him to push such a large iron cage out the door. Arbor said expressionlessly, my men are about to enter. If you don't run now, you won't be able to run later. Oh Yangsu only thought she was joking. What do you mean by your men? Feng Zhangfei and the others had already rushed inside. Jojo. Hurry. At Feng Zhangqing's command, several Feng clansmen dashed forward and hastily carried the person and the cage out together. Oh Yangsu dazedly glanced at her and couldn't help but widen his eyes. You. You're standing. You're standing. Only now did he discover that the little crown princess was actually standing in the cage. How was this possible? Several hours ago, her meridians were still broken. How could she recover so quickly? This was impossible. As an alchemist, he was well aware of how serious the little stoic's injuries were. Feng Zhangfei grabbed him and raised his sword to chop down. Arbor hastily said, forget it. Proper business is more important. Feng Zhangfei tossed him aside, displeasure written all over his face. You're letting him go just like this. This person was extremely loyal and devoted to young Master Omega Kotoku. Who knew what kind of disaster would befall him if he was left behind? Arbor nodded. Oh Yangsu normally stayed by Omega Kotoku's side and refined pills to save people. He never interfered with Heavenly Luck's affairs, let alone developed those harmful medicinal liquids. Actually, his crimes weren't that unforgivable. Besides, he didn't have any great enmity with him in his 2 lifetimes. One should spare people whenever possible. Feng Zhangfei sent his brother a look, and Feng Zhangqing instantly understood. Secretly restrain him and toss him to the crown prince to deal with. This darling, the little stoic, was actually just a paper tiger. Don't be fooled by her stoic face, her heart was actually very warm. She was 10,000 times more soft-hearted than that demon-like crown prince. Who knew how many lifetimes Mo Yen had accumulated good karma and good fortune to actually obtain such a stoic? The little stoic paced back and forth in the large cage, instructing everyone to cooperate with Mo Yen to destroy the nearby formation base. Duan Muqing, the little fatty, Qi Xian, and the group of senior sisters from the Holy Water sect all moved out to help. Just as the earth quaked and the walls collapsed, an explosion in midair attracted everyone's attention. Arbor looked up, and his gaze instantly froze. He saw a white-clothed figure suddenly drop down from the sky and heavily crash into the cage above his head with a boom. His body bounced weakly and finally rolled down from the iron cage, landing at Arbor's feet with a face covered in dirt. The air instantly turned still. Everyone held their breaths in anticipation as they looked up at the gorgeous red-clothed figure who had seized the opportunity to chase down. That person held a sword in one hand, and his grave and stern face was covered in austere killing intent. His eyes that stared at eldest Qin seemed to be flickering with the flames of enmity. Arbor crouched down and hastily stretched his hand out of the cage to grab that person's wrist. His meridians were in disarray, and the lightning and fire in his body were running amok. His situation was very bad. Arbor hastily took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. Hey, hey. Eldest young Sir Qin coughed and weakly covered his face. He frowned and teased, I actually let my Charles see my defeated appearance. How embarrassing. Arbor originally wanted to punch him and yell at him, what nonsense are you spouting? But seeing that he was covered in blood and his meridians were broken, he really couldn't fucking bear to be so ruthless. Don't waste your breath. I'll first stabilize the lightning and fire in your body, and then I'll give you. Eldest young Sir Qin's eyes brightened. My Charles, you don't want me to die. That's great. When I close my eyes now, I can recall the scene when we first met. At that time, you purposely left a row of crooked footprints under the snow plum tree. Your small face was paralyzed, and you even disguised yourself back then, making you look extremely ugly. But you were so bright and dazzling in the snowy world, simply as resplendent as the stars. Eldest young Sir Qin sighed softly. It truly was the bright moon and stars that he could never chase after in his entire life. Arbor was alarmed. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? You don't need to say your last words right now. You can say them after you've recovered. Jojo, how great would it be if I wasn't a member of the Qin family? But how could there be so many ifs in this world? Qin Xian. Arbor's expression shifted, and he couldn't help but cry out. What was going on with the person in front of her? He was slowly disintegrating and disappearing like fragments right before her eyes. She could save him. How could she not save him? But eldest Qin, whose soul was struck by the lightning and fire, really seemed to be disappearing. Arbor panicked and hastily tossed him into the star domain, stuffing him into the ice coffin that Murong Sun used earlier. He casually cast a few seals, temporarily sealing a portion of his divine soul that was dissipating. His complexion was like jade, and the cinnabar mark on his forehead had also faded by quite a bit. He silently laid inside the ice coffin like this, and there seemed to be a faintly discernible smile on his lips. However, he no longer had any life left. Moreover, his soul was completely destroyed by the lightning and fire, unlike Murong Sun, whose soul was perfectly preserved, so the soul-returning pill and body-returning pill were still effective on her. But this person, she didn't know if it was effective. Arbor tightly clenched his fists and flashed out again, sending countless invisible punches flying toward Omega Kotoku through the cage. Damn lunatic. Damn pervert. You won't even let off your own older brother. Inhumane, inhumane. However, Omega Kotoku coldly dodged and stared intently at her. You lied to me. It turned out that she had already recovered. No, perhaps her conscience wasn't sealed at all from the start. She even brought eldest Qin into her mobile spirit domain. When he thought of this, jealousy and hatred flashed through Omega Kotoku's face. This girl Arbor truly would do anything that could infuriate him. Boom 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 boom. Omega Kotoku pounced onto the iron cage, and Feng Changqing and the others hastily rushed up to protect him. Everyone only heard a thunderous rumble that reverberated through the clouds. The city in front of them was disintegrating bit by bit like a sandstorm. Rubble and debris flew everywhere, and dust swirled in the air. Everyone felt their bodies sink, as if they were forcefully pulled by something, and all their objects fell down simultaneously. The flying talisman matrix was violently destroyed. The city turned into fine powder, and everything fell straight down. Arbor hastily slapped 2 flying talismans on herself before slapping the outside of the cage to stabilize herself. In a split second, the space in front of them violently distorted. 2 tall figures abruptly shuttled out of the distorted space, and without any explanation, they simultaneously struck out with their palms at Omega Kotoku's head. Omega Kotoku was infuriated, but he had already flashed away. Duan Yu laughed brightly and said, so it's you, second young master. Come, eat 2 of my thunder fireballs. Loud rumbling noises passed by in a flash. Duan Yu supported the iron cage with one hand and giggled at the expressionless little stoic inside the cage. My Chiao, I didn't expect to meet you in this kind of situation. The little stoic remained expressionless and merely rolled her eyes in annoyance. Stop blabbering and let me out quickly. Without needing her to say anything, Mo Lien had already swiftly melted the iron cage in front of her. However, Duan Yu couldn't resist chuckling. Jojo, is this cage good? Make one for Lotus later and lock him up inside. It'll also save him the trouble of attracting bees and butterflies outside and being very annoying. Mo Lien was busy melting the iron cage and couldn't divert her attention to refute him, so she couldn't help but feel indignant. Duan Yu, this guy, was really trying to steal his woman. He'll leave this cage for him later. Arbor silently glanced at the man courting disaster. I think Lotus will be left for you. She's truly my beloved wife. She's truly of one mind with me. Mo Lien was secretly delighted, but her hand sped up. It didn't take long for her to melt a gap that was half a person's height in the cage. Sir Jojo's head poked out, and with a lift of his body, he flew out. Mo Lien flung out a storage talisman to temporarily store away that iron cage. After she calmed down and melted her heart, she would reforge it and send it to Duan Yu in a magnificent fashion. Humph. At this moment, the cage wasn't important. What was important was that he hastily reached out to catch his wife. Mo Lien's heart finally calmed down when he hugged her soft and fragrant body. At this moment, the 3 people were falling down at extreme speed. When they reached midair, the 3 people's figures tacitly disappeared. At the same time, Feng Changqing, Qi Xianxian, and the senior sisters from the Holy Water sect were also rapidly dragged back to the star domain by the sapling's countless branches. Only Mo Lien's cold shout was left in the air. Release the arrows. The hornet-like flying arrows turned into small dots, whooshing, 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 whooshing straight into the air. These arrows all contained a trace of divine or sacred energy. Er Rong and the 30,000 elites from the 3 provinces had been waiting for a long time. When they heard the order, they released the arrows on the spot without saying anything. The arrows pierced through the heads of the numerous zombies that fell down. These zombies, whose mobility was far inferior to cultivators, were completely shot to death before they could react in the air. After the arrow attack ended, Arbor and his group appeared in the air again. They floated down to the ground at the same time as Duan Muqing, Feng Changqing, and the senior sisters from the Holy Water sect. At this time, the place they were standing on was already a basin of ruins. Rows of heads suddenly popped out from the surrounding high ground. Rong Qing and the rest exclaimed in delight, "Is everyone all right?" Arbor's signature face was stoic. How could anything happen to us? He casually tossed out a storage talisman and released the 200,000 divine country guards he had brought with him. Mo Lien ordered solemnly, "Clean up all the zombies in the kingdom of Qingzhou. If you discover people in the base who haven't completely turned into zombies and still retain their consciousness, then keep them alive for now." Arbor pondered for a moment before instructing again. Yes. The divine country guards dispersed into action. After Crown Prince Rong waved his hand, the elites from the 3 provinces also moved together. Now that the kingdom of Qingzhou had become a wasteland, the only way to solve this problem from its root was to dispose of all the zombies that had turned into zombies. As for the remaining zombies that couldn't be recovered with medicine, they had to be disposed of as well. Otherwise, the situation would still spiral out of control. This couldn't be considered ruthless. It could only be said to be decisive. In order to preserve the majority of the population, they had to sacrifice the zombified portion of the population. Xiao Mu turned her head and looked at the desolated and dilapidated fences and dilapidated walls. Suddenly, he pulled Mo Lien's hand and retreated a few steps. Suddenly, a gurgling sound came from under her feet, and a hand as soft as noodles suddenly stretched out and abruptly grabbed Xiao Mu's ankle. Everyone was taken aback. Almost at the same time, they released countless streams of divine insane power toward the hand. The power of the 5 spirits exploded, and the hand retracted in pain. But in the blink of an eye, 7 to 8 noodle-like hands emerged from the rubble and dragged Xiao Mu over. Jojo. Everyone was shocked and quickly chased after him. The noodle-like hands and feet stretched out endlessly from the ruins. It was so disgusting that it made them want to vomit. Duanmu Qing, Qi Xianxian, and the rest tried their best to chop off these hands and feet. However, these things kept popping out, and it made their hair stand on end. They couldn't help but be shocked. Master! Qiuqiu cried out in shock. Arbor, however, was very calm. Don't panic. It's just a 1,000-year-old zombie. Don't worry, let's see what he wants to do. Arbor was dragged out of the ruins by these hands and feet. This object had been hiding under the ruins all along and had never revealed its true appearance. However, Xiao Mu had a rough idea of its identity. Stop hiding. Come out and meet me, Ancestor He Jin. Boom! A strange ball-shaped object suddenly emerged from the ruins. When everyone saw this strange-looking thing, they almost vomited for a moment. This person had hundreds and thousands of heads that were strangely connected together. Hands and feet kept popping out from the torso. It was like a tree, a strange tree. Leaves, branches, and whatnot kept popping out from the branches. It looked like someone who had gone crazy from taking drugs. It was ugly and made people tremble with fear. Arbor was wrapped around by a few of these hands and hung in the air. As expected of the little stoic. Rong Qing and the rest couldn't help but admire her inwardly. If it were any other young lady from another family, they would have long vomited from such a disgusting scene. How could they act like the stoic and stare at Zhang Yichen's unchanging face without any expression? Qi Xianxian was about to cry from disgust. She clenched her fists tightly and stared nervously at Arbor. Jojo, Jojo. These hands and feet didn't wrap around anyone but Arbor. They dragged Arbor and sprinted towards the mountain forest at an extremely fast speed. After a short moment, they arrived at the entrance of a cave. The monster with hands, feet, and heads stopped at the entrance. Heads and limbs kept growing out from the torso. It was as if it freaking ate too many tonics and got high, then became a pervert. This should be the entrance to the 9 Serenities underground palace created by Heavenly Kismet. Duan Yu's expression changed. We can't let it drag Jojo inside. Everyone attacked that monster with all their might. However, that thing had too many hands, feet, and heads. Even after destroying half of them, they still kept growing like the tree of eternity and couldn't be completely exterminated. Ha 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 ha. A voice came from the countless heads as if it was buried deep inside the monster. Little girl with good talent, your talent will no longer be of use in the future. Don't think of leaving my 9 Serenities underground palace for the rest of your life. This old man wants you to carry such good talent with you and live in pain and sorrow for the rest of your life. Ha 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 ha. At this moment, Arbor pulled out the Fushi greatsword with a flip of his hand. This time, Sir Jojo, whose soul had already stabilized, pulled out the Fushi greatsword almost effortlessly. As soon as this sword appeared, everyone felt the surrounding air suddenly turn cold, and their bodies were enveloped by a terrifying pressure. Even the Transcendent Realm experts present were dumbfounded. They could not control the sword intent that surged out of their bodies. Resonance. This Fushi greatsword was so powerful that it could cause the spiritual swords sealed in everyone's consciousness to resonate with sword intent. As soon as this thought appeared, the hundreds of divine continent guards standing in the front row could not help but hand over their spiritual swords. Holy Sun Mi Yen and Venerable Peach Blossom, who had rushed over, could not help but twitch their mouths. As soon as they came over, they felt suppressed. A deep power forced them to take out the swords in their own consciousness. Whoosh! 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 Hundreds of thousands of spiritual artifacts, divine artifacts, and even saint artifacts were all guided by the Fushi greatsword and resonated with its terrifying sword intent. All of a sudden, tens of thousands of swords shot out and slashed at the monster's limbs and head. They were scattered all over the place. Even though the freak had many heads, it could only wither on the verge of death after being slashed by so many spiritual artifacts, divine artifacts, and saint artifacts at the same time. The little stoic stood in the air with her plain clothes and ink-black hair. At this time, she had completely broken free from the entanglement of the soft limbs. Qi Xian looked up at her and involuntarily let out a long exclamation. "Aya, my Qiao, you're truly beautiful." Arbor held the Fushi greatsword in one hand and looked down at the thousand-legged, thousand-armed freak that was gradually going limp like a lump of rotten meat. She turned around and smiled at Mo Lien. Just as she was about to fly past, a red figure rushed out from the side and abruptly clamped down on her waist. Qin Xian stared icily at Arbor and dragged her into the Nine Gloom underground palace. "Little Qiao, accompany me forever, okay?" His gentle voice, which sounded like a raving, fell into Arbor's ears, causing all the hair on Sir Jojo's body to stand on end. This freak, how dare he? Once you enter the Nine Gloom underground palace, there's no possibility of walking out forever. This place leads to the netherworld, to the shattered void. Accompany me, let's stay in the void together forever, okay? Arbor's pupils abruptly contracted. "No. I won't go to the void. I won't go to that ghastly place. I won't go to the void ever again, I won't go to that ghastly place ever again." What else could she have if she went to the void? Would the void's power directly destroy her star domain as well? There were so many things she loved in the star domain, the home she had set up, her friends and family, everything. Was he going to deprive her of everything? Suddenly, a hand tightly grasped her arm. A warm feeling melted into her heart in a split second, and a familiar strength instantly melted her uneasiness. Mo Lien tore open the distorted space and abruptly appeared behind her, grabbing her hand. That warm and solid power instantly made all of her fear and uneasiness disappear without a trace. Jojo's Ren had come. In this life, Jojo was no longer alone. No matter when or where, Jojo's Ren would always be by Jojo's side, accompanying her, protecting her, and sharing life and death with her. Duan Yu leaped forward, and the Devil Emperor's sword ferociously slashed down with a ball of silver-white flames, slashing at Sir Omega Kotoku's arm. Omega Kotoku's body had been modified to be invulnerable. Although this slash left a mark on his arm, it did not sever his arm. His left hand was still tightly gripping Arbor's waist, dragging her along with Mo Lien and Duan Yu toward the entrance of the Nine Gloom underground palace. At the critical moment, Mo Lien and Duan Yu once again swung their swords and fiercely slashed at Omega Kotoku. Venerable Peach Blossom and the others chased after them, but they did not care about strategy. Right now, they only cared about head-butting Omega Kotoku. Power surged for a split second. Arbor used the power of time in her body and paused for less than a second. It was in this second that Duan Yu and Mo Lien's combined attack struck Omega Kotoku. Arbor then extended her small leg and ruthlessly kicked Omega Kotoku away. At the same time, Mo Lien hastily tore open a space in front of her. She hugged Arbor with one hand, kicked He Shichen, and pulled Duan Yu. Everyone hastily scrambled back. 1 second, 1 breath's worth of time. Omega Kotoku dazedly discovered that the world had completely changed. At this time, he was the only one left, and he fiercely fell toward the entrance of the Nine Gloom underground palace. Xiao Qiao. His furious roar was ruthlessly suppressed by a figure that followed after him. Arbor was originally afraid that this lunatic would jump out from that whatever Nine Gloom underground palace entrance. However, a beautiful figure inexplicably jumped out from the side and directly fell inside with Omega Katoku in her arms. This whatever Nine Gloom underground palace was also very strange. It looked just like a cave. After the two figures fell in one after the other, that cave entrance abruptly closed. Only a mountain wall was left in front of them, and that cave entrance was completely gone. Everyone didn't dare to approach. Instead, it was Lotus, who was dragging Jojo, who hastily retreated a few steps. Xiao Xiao hung on Xiao Xiao Lian's body like a koala. Her eyes were wide open as she tried her best to turn her head around. There was a messy pile of minced meat lying in front of the mountain wall. Occasionally, bubbles would emerge from it, as if Ancestor Black Gold hadn't died completely. However, he was truly too disgusting, so no one wanted to approach him. "It's fine, it's fine, it's fine," Mo Lien muttered to herself as she continuously patted Jojo's back. Beside her, Duan Yu, He Shichen, and the others were also drenched in cold sweat, and their hearts couldn't stop thumping wildly. It was no wonder that Mo Lien was about to go crazy from fright. In that instant just now, they all thought that they were about to lose Jojo and lose her forever. Jojo patted her chest with one hand while her other hand anxiously patted Mo Lien's chest. "Don't panic, don't panic." Everyone silently glanced at her. When they saw her sneakily looking around with her forehead drenched in sweat and lively appearance, their moods inexplicably improved. Qi Xianxian giggled and pulled Jojo off of Lotus. She hugged her tightly and pounded her back with all her might. "You scared me to death, Jojo." Su Shanshan, Little Pao, and the other holy water sect sisters also surrounded Arbor and hugged her in unison, nearly drowning her tiny arms and legs. "Little treasure." A startled cry descended from the sky. Arbor hastily pulled away Qi Xianxian and the others who were hugging her and looked up. She saw two figures swiftly descending and abruptly appearing in front of her. They were dressed in red and had similarly exquisite features. Their noble and gorgeous auras were exceptional and otherworldly. Qi Xianxian and the others couldn't help but be astonished. "Master! Aunt Master!" Arbor hastily ran over and complained while still in a state of shock. "Master, Aunt Master, I almost couldn't see you guys again. I was almost thrown into the void. That pile of flesh wanted to catch me and throw me into the void." She was scared to death, and her heart was still pounding even now. She didn't want to go anywhere. She only wanted to stay by Jojo's side. She wanted to stay by Jojo's side for the rest of her life. Xian Huang and Against the Sky hastily hugged her and checked her from head to toe before sighing in relief when they found that she was fine. After the two of them discovered that their disciple's Fushi great sword had moved, they hurriedly rushed over and even released their husband along the way. They worked together to beat up the heavenly law before successfully running over. The annoying heavenly law kept saying that they couldn't act rashly, couldn't overstep their boundaries, and couldn't interfere with the matters here. Bullshit, their disciple was almost gone. Who would talk nonsense with him? "Little treasure, don't be afraid." Xian Huang held her little hand and patted her chest, then reached out and patted her. "It's all right now." Against the Sky couldn't help but twitch his mouth. "Xian Huang. Call me senior sister." A certain someone glanced at him. Go over there and take a look." What was that thing? A pile of mincemeat was lying there motionless, and bubbles would appear from time to time. No one would believe that it was a person. At this moment, the pile of mincemeat suddenly rolled, and half a head with a blurry face appeared from the bubbles. Xian Huang. Xian Huang. You are Xian Huang." Against the Sky couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Aya, senior sister, this pile of mincemeat actually knows you." Senior sister. You are against the heavens. You are against the heavens." Xian Huang couldn't help but twitch her mouth and teased, "Junior sister, he knows you too." Speechless, save me. Save me. That person roared in a deep voice. Save me. What are you? Why should I save you? Xian Huang couldn't help but roll her eyes. Junior sister, go and deal with it. Look at it, it is already in this state, but it can still speak. What the hell is this thing? It is simply too unsightly and against the rules of human survival. Against the sky pursed his lips, and with a swipe of his hand, a heaven-pointing sword appeared. Holding the sword, he took a few steps forward. That pile of mincemeat couldn't help but roar angrily, how dare you? Do you know who I am? I am you. Senior brother Black Gold. Against the sky's footsteps paused, and Sir Jojo couldn't help but tighten his grip on Master's hand. What? This person said that he was his master and martial uncle's senior brother, then wasn't that Sir Jojo had been chopping his own martial uncle for so long? Jojo looked at Xian Huang's master, dumbfounded. Master also looked at against the sky with a dumbfounded expression. Did I hear wrongly? At this moment, against the sky had already walked in front of Ancestor Black Gold. Looking at the disgusting scene, his stomach churned. I am going to vomit. Junior sister, you are pregnant again. Pregnant your head. Against the sky suppressed the urge to vomit, kept his sword, turned around and ran. As he ran, he shouted, No, my heaven-pointing sword, I can't chop such a disgusting thing. Heavenly Tao. Hurry up and use a thunder fire to destroy it, so disgusting. Boom. Along with the thunder flame, Ancestor Black Gold let out a lingering roar, heaven-defying. You treacherous thing. How dare you do this to your senior brother? Xian Huang. Against the sky. You actually killed me twice. I will reincarnate for all eternity, and even if I become a ghost, I will not let you off. Those who obey the heavens prosper, those who defy the heavens perish. Heavenly Tao will last for thousands of years, and prosper with the world. Against the sky was speechless as he turned back to take a look. All he saw was a pile of ash and smoke. The pile of meat had been blown away by the thunder fire. Chapter 55-41. Take a look, freshly baked sesame seed cakes. 10 spirit stones for 1 cake. Sesame seed cakes. Sesame seed cakes that are hard to come by in 100 years, limited to 50 pieces. Once they're sold out, we'll immediately pack up and leave. Little doll, don't push around, what are you doing? Little brat, line up at the back. Our dear baby Mo raised his pair of black phoenix eyes and glanced at the uncle with red eyebrows and green eyes, his little mouth drooping slightly. The little boy was about 4 or 5 years old, his fair and jade-like appearance was instantly lovable. This uncle was also someone who cared about appearances. When he saw the little boy's appearance, his attitude immediately softened a little, and he put on an amiable expression and said, Little doll, where are your parents? Why are you running around alone? Looking at your age, shouldn't you be studying in the boy division of Sacred Academy right now? Why are you wandering around alone here? Baby Mo glanced at the uncle who was talking non-stop, then turned to look outside the crowd. His eyes rolled, and he said pitifully, Uncle, I've been hungry for 2 days and 3 nights, can you let me cut the queue and buy a sesame seed cake first? This sesame seed cake was actually limited to 50 pieces a month, it must be a delicacy in the world. Baby Mo thought. He had probably never eaten such delicious sesame seed cake in his life, he must try it. Little furball, where are you? Everyone turned to look, only to see a bald little fellow who was half the height of a human scampering over, trying to squeeze into the crowd. This little baldy was carrying a small floral cloth package, a simple backpack on his back, and another backpack around his neck. Carrying all kinds of bags, big and small, he jumped over and squeezed into the crowd noisily. Make way, don't squeeze Lord Guangguang. How dare you, what are you touching? You're not allowed to touch Lord Guangguang's head. Everyone couldn't help but laugh, and a woman even reached out to touch the child's bald head in amusement. Guangguang squeezed through the crowd with great difficulty, and bounced to Baby Mo's side with bags of various sizes. He took a glance and exclaimed, "Little furball, what are you doing?" Baby Mo was currently raising his little arm up high, handing over 10 spirit stones to the old man who was selling sesame seed cakes. When he turned around and saw Sir Guangguang staring at him with his round eyes and staring at the sesame seed cake in his hand, he felt his heart ache. The little guy took out another 10 spirit stones from his sleeve and handed them to the old man pitifully. "Grandpa, can you give me a slightly bigger piece of cake?" The corners of everyone's mouths twitched, and they suddenly felt guilty for exploiting a child. The old man's wrinkled face stiffened, and then he coughed dryly, forget it, I'll give you another one." Baby Mo's eyes lit up. Lord Guangguang's eyes also lit up. Being stared at by the two little guys who looked like New Year's dolls, Uncle Sesame Cake suddenly felt that the misty Saint realm seemed to have brightened up a little. The two children thanked him politely and took the pancakes from the old man. They took a bite carefully as they squeezed through the crowd. That was called hard. It was so hard that their little teeth almost knocked out. Baby Mo and Lord Guangguang instantly shed 2 lines of remorseful tears. His 10 spirit stones, why couldn't he buy something else? They shouldn't have had any hope for the food in the Saint realm. Sitting on the roof far away, Venerable Peach Blossom, who saw this scene, laughed so hard that he fell over. Chapter 55-42. Oh my God! Baby Mo, this little brat, really had an endless source of jokes every day. This was their 3rd day in the holy region, and Baby Mo's jokes could probably last a year. Venerable Peach Blossom couldn't help but think, his Jojo must have been this interesting when he was young. If Jojo knew what he was thinking, he would definitely tell him expressionlessly, "You guessed wrong. My childhood was very boring." Baby Mo looked at the burdensome hard sesame seed cake in his hand and exchanged glances with Sir Guangguang. The two little ones were so regretful that their eyes were brimming with tears. Sir Guangguang even stretched out his trembling hands and held Baby Mo tightly. "Little furball, what should we do? We were fooled." He didn't expect Baby Mo, who was so smart, to be fooled like this. It was really detestable. When they saw so many people lining up, they thought that this sesame seed cake was the best delicacy in the world and was worth cherishing. They were wrong. They shouldn't have had such expectations for the food in the holy region. In the divine land, 10 spiritual stones were equivalent to 10,000 spirit coins. 10,000 spirit coins could buy a lot of snacks in China, but now the two of them were speechless and looked at the hard sesame seed cake in each other's hands with tears streaming down their faces. "Let's go back and give it to Daddy." Baby Mo's eyes were watery. He sniffled and thought for a while with his head tilted. He took out a small cloth pouch from his pocket and put the sesame seed cake that he had taken a small bite of into it. Sir Guangguang hurriedly threw the sesame seed cake in his hand into the pouch. "The academician said that we should respect and love our parents. Then I'll give this to the stoic mother." Baby Mo nodded expressionlessly and said ruefully, "It's shameful to waste food." "Yes, we shouldn't waste food." Sir Guangguang looked at Baby Mo with heartache. "We spent 10 extra spirit stones today. Who should we get them back from?" "I think it should be Uncle Aoyi." "I think so too." Sir Guangguang nodded his bald little head in all seriousness. "Uncle Aoyi has been working hard recently. He has to send little furball to the academy every day. Let's just give him a break tomorrow. Let him pay 10 spirit stones in exchange for a day's break. He should be very willing." Uncle Aoyi, who was hiding in the dark, silently took out a handkerchief and wiped the corners of his eyes. It really wasn't easy being a subordinate. After being cheated by his master, he would be cheated by his mistress. After being cheated by his mistress, he would be cheated by his little master. Generation after generation, he would never be done with it. The two little ones discussed the countermeasures and felt that the matter was perfectly resolved. They happily put away the bag of sesame seed cakes. Sir Guangguang carried bags of various sizes and followed beside baby Imo. Along the way, he asked, "Little dumpling, where are you going? You don't intend to return to the academy? We've already come out." Since he still had to copy books when he got back, he might as well take a stroll first. At most, I'll copy a few pages of books. They were all copying, so there was not much difference between copying more and copying less. Perfect. Sir Guangguang looked at his little master with adoration and nodded vigorously. "Little dumpling, you're so smart. Say, the food in the sacred region is so disgusting, what do these cultivators eat every day? I heard from Uncle Peach Blossom that they didn't eat it before. Every day, I'll drink the wind and admire the moon. If worse comes to worst, I'll just eat dirt when I'm too hungry." "What?" Lord Guangguang looked at baby Mo in shock. "This is too exaggerated. Is it hard to swallow?" Chapter 55-43. Cough, cough, cough. Cough. Supremacy Peach Blossom did not expect baby Mo to misinterpret his words. When did he say that the people of the holy region had to eat dirt? The conversation between these two brats was full of holes. Baby Mo, this little scoundrel, had indeed inherited his father's sly personality. In fact, he was even worse than his father. "Little furball, did you hear anything? Maybe Uncle Aoyi is secretly following us again." Baby Mo made a judgment based on his professional experience. Then, he shook his head expressionlessly. "Sigh, they're really worried sick." Lord Guangguang nodded repeatedly. "Yes, he's been following us all day. I already said that nothing would happen. Don't bother about him. Let's go. Uncle Aoyi is no longer a child. He will follow us himself." Student Aoyi, who had been following them, twitched his mouth silently. To be a shadow guard now, he had to have another skill to rely on. He held back his laughter. Lord Guangguang kicked Tada as he followed beside baby Mo. "Little furball, there's only one market in the holy region. It wasn't easy to find an old man selling sesame seed cakes, but he's actually a swindler. The sesame seed cakes he sells are so disgusting. There are so many people beside him pulling in business for this old man. I think it's too shameless. They even want to cheat us two children of our money." Baby Mo nodded seriously. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. "Then let's report him." Lord Guangguang supported his little master unconditionally. As long as his little master said it, it was definitely right. His little master was the smartest person in the world. Whatever he said, Lord Guangguang just had to do it without using his brain. "Little furball, where should we go to report him? Do you remember? 2 days ago, 2 people came to greet Daddy. One was called Dongfang Yuzhu, and the other was called Beifang Yuzhu." The two little ones nodded. They looked at each other and said in unison, "What strange names. Little furball, now that you mention it, I suddenly remember that there were 2 people like that. Daddy also said that they were 2 big brothers in the holy region, the people in charge or something. Let's go report one of them," the 2 little ones said in unison again. The 2 of them grumbled angrily along the way, "It's too disgusting." "That's right. My teeth almost fell out. Liar. Since there were so many people supporting them, they should all be arrested. Put him in prison." "Little dumpling, do you think there's a prison here? If you don't, then ask father to build a big prison for them." "Little dumpling, you're so smart." Little Master was indeed the smartest person in the world. Stay Up Late, who was following in the dark, almost slipped and fell to the ground. I can't, I really can't. Tomorrow, it would be better to let Xiao Yi follow the little master. He was about to die of laughter because of them. Only the peach blossom deity had good eyesight. He hid further away and listened to the conversation between the two little ones on the roof. He could laugh wantonly without anyone noticing. He was having a hard time holding it in. What a pity. I spent 10 spirit stones to buy 2 pieces of broken sesame seed cake. And it's so disgusting. Master Guangguang was angry. Then what else is there to shop around here? I don't know. Mother said that only by being knowledgeable can one be wise. I feel that at our age, we should walk around more, shop more, and see more things. It's good for wisdom. Chapter 55-44. Little Furball, I think you're right. Lord Guangguang nodded heavily. Then let's walk around and take a look. We've only been in the holy region for a few days. To be honest, we haven't walked around yet. Lord Guangguang followed baby Mo with small steps. Yeah, I was sent to the Holy Academy by Daddy the moment I arrived. Baby Mo pouted. Yeah, Daddy's bad. Do you think he did it on purpose? He did it on purpose. Humph, he really doesn't want little Furball to appear in front of Mommy all the time. Bad guy. The two little ones scolded angrily. Lord Guangguang suddenly tugged at baby Mo's sleeve. Little Furball, look, these cultivator uncles in the holy region are so pitiful. Yeah. Look at them walking on the road, all of them are drooping their heads as if they can't lift their spirits at all. They look so miserable. Daddy said that those who can ascend to the holy region should be at least mystique venerable rank. Lord Guangguang muttered softly, in our China, which mystique venerable rank big shot isn't unparalleled. Baby Mo nodded vigorously. The holy region should be full of transcendent rank cultivators, starting from mystique venerable rank. If they hadn't reached transcendent rank, it was probably because the children of these transcendent rank cultivators hadn't reached mystique venerable rank yet. For example, baby Mo. Or perhaps like Mommy, who came with Daddy, the relatives of transcendent rank cultivators. But look at them, wow, they're all dressed like beggars. That's right. How strange. Guangguang, let's be careful, they might all be pretending. Why would they want to pretend? I don't know. Baby Mo shook his head and said with a straight face, maybe they're trying to trick foreigners like us. The two of them looked at each other and nodded at the same time. They both felt that their suspicions were very reasonable. They had to be wary of these people. These actors might like to bully outsiders like them. The people of the holy region were like frosted eggplants, all of them drooped their heads and looked like they had nothing to live for as they walked past them. A gust of autumn wind rustled past. Baby Mo turned around to take a look. Those figures seemed to be trembling slightly. Boom! A female cultivator who was originally walking in front of baby Mo with a hunched back and drooping head suddenly fell to the ground without any warning. It was extremely sudden. The two little ones jumped back at the same time, holding each other's little paws. With nervous little expressions, they said in unison, "Be careful. Be careful. It's a scam. You can't help her." I've heard Grandmaster and Marshal Granduncle mention that people who suddenly fall in front of you are 100% scammers. If you help them up, you'll be blackmailed. I'll swindle you until your mansion becomes a thatched hut. The two of them hurriedly covered their small pouches, revealing a vigilant expression. At the same time, a tall white figure flashed to the side of the peach blossom god, who was lying on the roof. He saw this fellow holding the wine jug and laughing so hard that he slapped his thigh without a care for his image. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. What's wrong? Reverend Peach Blossom laughed uncontrollably and pointed at the street not far away. Holy Sun Mi Yen looked down and saw Ao Yi sneakily hiding under an old tree by the street. Not far away, two little ones were holding hands with nervous expressions on their faces. Chapter 55-45. A middle-aged man with a crooked neck walked out from the side, and with an extremely slow speed, he slowly walked towards the fallen female cultivator. Baby Mo hurriedly went forward and tugged at that person's clothes, his phoenix eyes bulging. "This uncle, you have to consider carefully. Look at how old she is, she can fall on the streets just by walking. Even an idiot would know that she's a liar. Right, liar, liar. If you go up to help her up now, I guarantee that your mansion will turn into a thatched hut. A divine artifact will turn into a mystic artifact, you'll lose your family fortune. Right, lose my family fortune, lose my family fortune." Lord Guangguang nodded repeatedly again, expressing his agreement with Baby Mo's words. "I'll lose your head. Where did this brat come from? Go play at the side." That middle-aged man suddenly turned around. A pair of eyes glowed with a green light, on his unshaven face, two messy strands of long gray hair hanging in front of his forehead floated in front of his eyes. "Ah, it's a corpse puppet." The two little ones suddenly hugged each other, crying out excitedly. Quick, little dumplings, little dumplings." Lord Guangguang shouted. Baby Mo hurriedly took out a small booklet from his bosom, his little hands flipping through the pages. The two little heads huddled together, saying in unison, "Look, look. It's recorded in Mother's corpse puppet roster. Eyes glowing green, slow movements, disheveled hair, dull eyes, unable to see its true appearance, this must be a mid-level corpse puppet. Quick, freeze him, freeze him." The two little ones hurriedly took out a few talismans from their sleeves and threw them over. The surrounding crowd silently watched the two's performance, and could not help but twitch their mouths. That unlucky middle-aged man had over a dozen talismans stuck on his body, fluttering in the wind. This person was so angry that he reached out to grab the talismans that flew to his forehead, glaring at Baby Mo as he said angrily, "Who's a corpse puppet? How could that damn thing from the lower star domain come to our sacred region?" These two brats with damaged brains actually dared to call him a corpse puppet, he was so angry. "This is my daughter." The middle-aged man pointed at the female cultivator lying on the ground, his face darkening as he roared furiously. These two kids had so many tricks up their sleeves, he wondered which family they were from. Scamming your head. Oh. The two children's black eyes moved, and they held each other's hands and took a step back at the same time. When they saw the middle-aged man helping the unconscious female cultivator to sit up, the two children finally saw the female cultivator's true appearance. He was even more miserable than his father's unshaven middle-aged uncle. He couldn't tell her age, but he saw that the female cultivator's cheeks were sunken, and her entire body was bony like a skeleton. "Uncle, what's wrong with your daughter?" Baby Mo secretly stuffed the corpse puppet roster into his sleeve and asked curiously. The middle-aged man glared at them. "Why are you asking when you already know the answer? What else could it be? Isn't it just hunger? Fainted from hunger?" Baby Mo and Lord Guangguang cried out in unison as if they had heard a fantasy story. Following that, GMO Baby hurriedly took a few steps forward and untied a small cloth pouch from his body. His eyes were filled with emotions and sparkling as he cutely looked at the middle-aged man. "Uncle, here are 2 pieces of sesame seed cake for 20 spirit stones, do you want to buy them?" Aoyi, who was standing in the corner, lost his balance and almost slipped on the ground. Chapter 55-46. That middle-aged man saw the doll-like child in front of him looking at him with sparkling eyes full of emotion. He took out a small cloth pouch from his waist, thinking that the other was going to gift him something. The result, it was money. The middle-aged man took the cloth pouch and angrily threw 20 spirit stones to Baby Mo, then supported his daughter and left. As he walked, he muttered, "Selling 2 sesame seed cakes for money, I don't know whose child is so shrewd." The Shioja who had seen baby Mo buy sesame seed cakes earlier couldn't help but twitch their mouths as they watched. They thought to themselves, if you knew, this little brat was trying to get something for nothing, spending 10 spirit stones at the cost price, then selling it to you for a net profit of 10 spirit stones. The sesame seed cake he gave you, and each of them took a small bite, what would you think? Baby Mo turned around, and reached out a small paw with Guangguang Darren, excitedly bumping palms. That's great. Guangguang Darren said happily, such a disgusting sesame seed cake, I finally don't have to bring it home to show filial piety to father and mother. Little dumpling, we already sold that sesame seed cake to Uncle Idiot. Then are we still going to find that Dongfang Yuzhu and report that old grandpa? Baby Mo had a serious expression as he nodded solemnly, saying, we have to report when we see injustice. We can't sympathize with old grandpa's inaction because he's old. Mother said, there's no difference between old and young bad people. Bad people must receive the punishment they deserve. Guangguang Darren clapped his hands vigorously, giving face. Little dumpling, you said it very well. Then where do we go to find Dongfang Yuzhu now? This sacred region was a vast expanse of whiteness, and there weren't any manors or residences in sight. All of the Shioja habitually found a place to meditate and cultivate. This place is really terrible. Baby Mo shook his little head speechlessly. If we knew this damned place wasn't fun, we wouldn't have come here. But Stoic Mother said that we have to go everywhere to gain experience in order to grow. We can't limit ourselves to one place. We've already explored the entire divine continent in these 2 years. Baby Mo nodded. Mother is right. But this sacred region is too simple and crude. That's right. I think these transcendent realm cultivators are all like idiots. They don't even know how to build a house for themselves when they sleep in the wild. I heard from Uncle Rotten Peach Blossom that after they came here, they didn't even have a place to wash up. Baby Mo said expressionlessly with a taut face. Unbelievable. Lord Guangguang also cried out, unbelievable. This is simply not a place for humans to pass through. It said that you can only bathe once a year. Men and women live together. All of them look malnourished. If I tell little Yuan about this, he definitely won't believe me. I heard that they usually have to find a secluded place far away to relieve themselves. They also have to enclose the ground and make it into a prison, digging a deep hole. Those female cultivators are especially troublesome. What if I have diarrhea? What if I have to relieve myself all day long? Don't worry, they eat dirt every day and won't be full. It's impossible for them to have diarrhea. Baby Mo shook his head and looked at Lord Guangguang sympathetically. The two little ones said in unison, too tragic. Chapter 55-47. Holy Sun Mi Yen, who was eavesdropping far behind the two, glanced at Divine Peach Blossom in amusement. I say, what do you usually talk about with the child? Did they talk about such funny topics all day long? Speechless, Ma Shichen glanced at him. Do you think I'm the one who said that? It's most likely Mo Lien who told the child this. What about enclosing the land into a prison and digging a deep hole to relieve himself? How could he say such boring things? I told the child before that the conditions in the holy region are more difficult. If the child is not used to living here, he can still live in the star region. How would I know that he could imagine so much? He even said that we're eating dirt here. Ma Shichen raised her hand to cover her face. She really didn't want to talk to this child later. Who did he resemble? He clearly had a stoic face, but he was a chatterbox. She wondered if it was because he spent too much time with the little monk that he inherited the bad habit of being a chatterbox. The two of them followed behind the two children from afar. They watched as they walked for a while, taking out a crumpled piece of paper from time to time to ask passers-by. Holy Sun Mi Yen couldn't help but tilt his head and want to laugh. What are they doing? What do you think that piece of paper is? Uncle, uncle. A passerby realized that the hem of his clothes had been tugged twice and hurriedly pulled it back. Just as he was about to get angry, he lowered his head and saw two delicate little faces looking up at him. The uncle smoothed out the creases of his clothes and patted them rather lovingly. Then, he put on an amiable face and asked, "Child, what's the matter?" "Uncle, do you recognize the person in the painting?" That person took the crumpled paper and looked at it. Isn't this Master Dongfang?" Although this painting was crumpled, it captured the essence of Master Dongfang's handsome appearance. It was really quite similar and could be recognized at a glance. Yes, it's Dongfang Yuzhu." Baby Mo and Lord Guangguang nodded repeatedly. "Uncle, where are we going to find him?" Li Yang lowered his head to look at the two children and saw that they were both dressed in blue boy robes. The color and style of the clothes were clearly the uniform of the boy branch of the Sacred Academy. Children who were able to attend the Holy Academy at such a young age must be from an upper-middle-class family. Moreover, the two children had a fair and tender appearance. It seemed that they usually ate well. How did he sneak out of the academy? "My two little friends, why are you looking for Master Dongfang?" Baby Mo looked at him with curved eyes. "Uncle, let's report this to Dongfang Yuzhu." "Yes, report an old grandpa." He set up a stall on the street and hired a lot of people to help him. The sesame seed cakes he sells are very hard. When we bit into them, our teeth almost broke. Baby Mo nodded repeatedly at the side. "Uncle, show us the way. We want to report this swindler grandpa to Dongfang Yuzhu." Lord Guangguang nodded and patted Li Yang's calf. "Uncle, don't worry. Lead the way for us. We won't betray you." The corner of Li Yang's mouth twitched. For a moment, he was speechless. "Strange, why do I feel like laughing?" Baby Mo glanced at him and saw his strange expression. Suddenly, as if he thought of something, a light bulb flashed in his mind. The little fellow lowered his little head and took out a piece of spirit stone from his little money pouch. He pulled Li Yang's hand and stuffed it into it. He nodded and said seriously, "Uncle, don't worry. We won't skimp on your guide fee." Chapter 55-48. Lord Guangguang nodded his little bald head. We're good people, uncle." Li Yang's expression instantly looked like he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at the spirit stones stuffed in his hand and looking down at the two pairs of black eyes, Li Yang kept feeling like he even cheated the little kids of their money. He was simply wicked beyond redemption. Just as this fellow was uneasy in deliberating, not knowing what to say to appease the children. With a glance, he saw two noble young masters in luxurious brocade robes walking over with smiles on their faces. Looking at that incomparably noble appearance, one could tell that they were definitely not ordinary people. Li Yang hurriedly went forward and cupped his hands, asking with a smile, "Young masters, these two children are, oh, there are children." Hu Shichen glanced at the children with a faint smile. Baby Mo and Lord Guangguang hurriedly lowered their little heads and rubbed the corners of their little clothes. Li Yang smiled as if relieved of a heavy burden and hurriedly cupped his hands with a smile. "Then that's good. Young masters, please bring the children home. The holy region hasn't been very peaceful recently, there are often spirit beasts charging into the camp. It won't be good if they get hurt anywhere. Besides, looking at the clothes of the two young masters, I think they should be disciples of the Holy Academy's boy branch. The Holy Academy should still be in class right now, I don't know why they ran out." Hu Shichen bent down to pick up Baby Mo and rubbed the little fellow's head. He played truant to come out." Baby Mo blinked and hurriedly shook his head. No, we didn't play truant." Lord Guangguang pounced and hung on Hu Shichen's leg, saying hurriedly, "We didn't play truant." The other students also went back. Hu Shichen raised her eyebrows and patted Baby Mo's little head in amusement. "Whether you played truant or not, go home and explain to mother." Baby Mo and Lord Guangguang sighed in disappointment at the same time. Arbor's party arrived at the Holy Region 4 days ago. Their current temporary residence in the Holy Region was a small row of 2-story bamboo buildings built by Qiuqiu on the day they arrived. There weren't many rooms, 2 or 3 of them were enough for the time being. Moreover, their bamboo house was just a smokescreen to fool outsiders. When they really needed to replenish their sleep, they were not stupid. Naturally, they would run to the star field to rest. Speaking of the sacred region, there was no distinction between day and night all year round. The environment was also very humid and full of haze. This place was covered by a layer of white fog all year round. The fog was very thick, effectively blocking everyone's line of sight. Even a mystique venerable rank powerhouse would not be able to see clearly what was 3 feet away. Therefore, when Baby Mo said that he needed to find a secluded place to relieve himself, it was actually nonsense. He couldn't see anything clearly when he was 3 feet away, let alone when he was several meters away. The space of the sacred region was empty and boundless. Compared to the crowded and bustling 3 continents, it was vast but sparsely populated. Generally, the practitioners of the sanctuary were used to finding a place rich in saint power to cultivate, and it was unlikely that they would gather together. In Jojo's place, it was rare to see a group of people living in a row of small bamboo houses and cultivating together. 4 days ago, when they arrived at the sacred region, they were surrounded by people. There was no other reason, it seemed that it had been too long since anyone had ascended to the sacred region. This time, they came with more than 30 people, which was simply shocking. If Lord Jojo knew what the people of the sacred region were thinking, he would definitely snort and laugh at them for making a fuss over nothing. What these people saw was just the tip of the iceberg. Chapter 55-49. Actually, there were more than 2,000 members of the Phoenix clan who stayed in the Star Domain to retire. This was not including the number of beasts. It was just that they did not come out often. Only Jojo and a few dozen people came out to walk the streets. At this moment, everyone was gathered in the main hall on the 1st floor. The main hall of the bamboo building was quite spacious and could accommodate a few dozen people, but it was still a little cramped. Everyone was drinking tea and eating melon seeds while watching the show. Ever since Lord Rotten Peach Blossom brought Bao Mo back, the atmosphere became very strange. The mother and son sat opposite the table and stared at each other for more than 5 minutes. Until, Mo Lien slammed the table and scolded, "Why did you skip school?" Baby Mo widened his pair of round eyes. Before he could protest, a childish wail came from the side. Princess Wuxia, who was holding the baby and watching the show, was shocked. She looked down and did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Why are you crying? Your eldest uncle didn't scold you." This was too funny, really. The 3-year-old Fu Yun's face was red and he looked at Princess Wuxia pitifully. He sobbed and said, "I heard that we have to go to school at the age of 5. I have more than a year before I'm going to be like Brother Tuanzi and have to go to school to suffer. I really feel the same way." Everyone burst out laughing and looked at him speechlessly. Lord Guangguang nodded in agreement and let out a long sigh. "Little Yun, cherish the good times you have now." Third young Master Fu, "Why did you leave early today?" Lady Qiao had a stoic expression on her face. She glanced at her husband, who was slamming the table, and said seriously, "You can't learn from your father, understand?" Mo Lien. He retracted his hand and looked at his expressionless wife and then at his equally expressionless son. He was speechless. Who was his son learning from? His wife always pushed the blame to him. How could he get out of it? Today, Teacher Zhang was teaching. Halfway through, there was a fatty. Baby Mo glanced at his mother's expressionless face, and his voice softened. Fat classmate suddenly stood up and rushed forward to kick the teacher twice. The teacher was furious. He punished the fat student and left in a hurry. I thought that since it was still early, I would go for a stroll on the streets. Stoic Joe's expression was normal, but he was slightly puzzled. Why did he feel that this plot was a little familiar? His face did not reveal the slightest clue as he asked indifferently, "What did you do?" "I saw him bullying other students, so I stuck 2 berserk talismans on his butt." Everyone couldn't help but twitch their lips. Little Fu Yun asked with a face full of admiration, "Big brother, how is that fatty?" "He's miserable." Baby Mo turned his little head and said with bright eyes, "He was hit on the hand by the teacher with a ferrule. He cried until his snot bubbles came out." Mo Lien couldn't help but roll her eyes. "Then guess what happened to you? Will you be more miserable than that student?" Baby Mo's eyes were as round as saucers as he rolled off the stool and ran towards the stairs with his 2 short legs. Adoptive father, save me. He looked for adoptive father before he was beaten, but adoptive father was not looking for grandmaster. This was Baby Mo's experience in the past 5 years. With a light flick of his sleeve, Mo Lien swept it across the air, and darling Mo tumbled backwards like a small ball. Chapter 55-50. However, when her small body rolled halfway, she was intercepted by a floating figure, who quickly scooped her up and held her in his arms. Upon catching a whiff of a familiar scent, the little fellow's survival instincts were extremely strong, and he scrambled on all 4s, frantically shrinking into the newcomer's embrace. He called out childishly, adoptive father, adoptive father. Daddy wants to beat me. He even threatened me. He said he would make my ending very, very miserable." Everyone couldn't resist bursting into laughter. Mo Lien expressionlessly looked at her son who was complaining first. Her gaze swept over a certain person before she harumphed. "Come here." Baby Mo shook his head like a rattledrum. "Not going." Duan Yu glanced at him in amusement before carrying this little imp to Arbor's side and sitting down. "Little furball, what earth-shattering thing did you do now? Did you make mommy unhappy?" "I didn't do anything." Baby Mo quickly defended himself. "I also didn't anger mommy." "Adoptive father, you have to uphold justice for little furball." This child's face was stoic, but he was more eloquent than anyone else. Mo Lien couldn't help but be amused and annoyed at the same time. When Stoic Xiao saw everyone looking at her, she coughed lightly and said expressionlessly, "Children take after their father and like to twist words and force logic since they were young." Everyone nodded in agreement with a knowing attitude. Mo Lien didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was utterly speechless. At this time, an energetic woman's scolding came from outside the bamboo building, as if someone wanted to barge in. However, she was stopped by Ao Yi and Xiao Yi who were guarding outside. Arbor blinked and asked his son seriously, "Did you reach out to hit that fat classmate?" Baby Mo shook his head and answered with certainty, "I didn't even touch him with a single finger." Arbor nodded and stood up to open the bamboo building's door. A group of people then filed out. Currently, outside the bamboo building's courtyard, a family of 3 was charging in exasperatedly. Everyone looked over and saw 3 fat balls of different sizes moving about. Outside, there were several busybodies who were watching the show. Seeing several dozen people coming out of the bamboo building, the 2 big fat balls retreated a few steps. They pointed at Xiao Mu and company through the bamboo fence and bellowed, "You don't think that you can make people feel afraid just because you have the advantage in numbers?" Arbor raised his eyebrows. The woman, whose arms were 4 times as thick as Lord Jojo's, raised her voice and asked angrily, "Son, was he the one who did it?" It's him, it's him." He had suddenly thrown out a purple talisman. Then I fell to the ground. That Baldy was especially bad. He roared and the other students all rushed over to hit me. Wah wah, the fat ball-like woman suddenly slapped the bamboo fence and roared, "Did you hear that?" Stay Up Late silently took a step back to avoid the woman's saliva. The little furball was currently using its 2 paws to cover its eyes, and its little head was forcefully leaning against Duan Yu as it stubbornly insisted, "I just didn't hit him. I didn't even lay a finger on him." Duan Yu couldn't help but be amused. What exactly happened? It seemed that this little fellow only told the story of the first half and would even secretly hide the truth from them and hold back the second half. Guangguang. Sir Guangguang took small steps and hastily moved in front of everyone, his expression filled with righteous indignation. Stoic mother, he was the one who bullied us first. Stoic Qiao was speechless and looked down at him. He was the one who bullied Xiaohua first. We beat him up as an eye for an eye and upholding justice. Chapter 55-51. That's right. As the saying goes, evil cannot prevail over good. Grandmaster said so. Although justice will be late, it will come one day. Baby Imo had a righteous expression as he nodded and said, "Fatso classmate, he has been abusing us for so long, it's time for someone to teach him a lesson. And I, and Guangguang, are coincidentally suitable candidates." Everyone, this little brat's words were dignified, but it could not hide his deceitful nature. Arbor looked at his son expressionlessly, then turned to look at the flustered and exasperated woman who was stomping her feet, and said indifferently, "How do you plan to settle this?" Fatso's family of three glared at Arbor with the same angry expression. "Do you even need to say it? Of course, you have to apologize to my son." The woman said indignantly, "My son was beaten up to this state, you have to pay all the medical fees." "How much?" The woman's expression flickered slightly, and she pointed at the row of bamboo houses behind Arbor. "My son was beaten to a pulp by your son, the medical fees are expensive, you have to use the row of houses behind as collateral for the medical fees." The group of people behind Arbor looked at each other silently, and they all thought to themselves, "This Fatso's family of three is really asking for an exorbitant price." They actually came for their house. Speaking of this row of two-story bamboo houses, they had really been in the limelight in the Holy Region recently. 4 days ago, when their group of more than 30 people openly entered the Holy Region, it immediately caused a commotion. The first thing they did on the afternoon of the first day they arrived was to build the houses. When Jojo expressionlessly built the bamboo houses, he attracted many people to come and watch. Many kind-hearted people came forward to strike up a conversation with them. At that time, they all tried to persuade her, "Young madam, don't be stupid. The Holy Region is filled with holy power. The bamboo houses you built using one of the 5 spirits, the wood spirit, will be washed away by the holy power in less than 10 minutes. Their Jojo continued to build the houses calmly without any distractions, and he did not even glance at the others. In the end, these people became anxious and continued to persuade her one after another. "Madam, don't be so unconvinced. That's right. Let me tell you, you've spent so much with spiritual energy to build this bamboo building. When the time comes, it will still collapse." Thus, Jojo Sama built the 2-story bamboo building expressionlessly amidst the murmurs of the crowd. A sensation? Naturally, it was sensational. First of all, everyone was suspicious of this young madam's inner world. Who the hell would put a bunch of bamboo in their inner world instead of other precious items? Who could inject wood spirit energy into bamboo in one go, and then build a 2-story bamboo building? How could the wood spirit energy not be exhausted after consuming so much? Everyone was very curious about their Charles. For the past 4 days, there were many busybodies who came here every day to see if the bamboo building would collapse. The result was obvious. The bamboo building didn't collapse, and there wasn't even the slightest sign of cracking. How could a bamboo house made of holy wood be destroyed by the holy power in the sanctuary? Stop joking, okay? The first luxurious villa in the Holy Region was born just like that. For the past few days, many people often looked at them strangely, and it wasn't as if they weren't being watched in the dark. It was just that more than 30 of them had ascended here, and they didn't seem to be afraid of trouble. Therefore, they turned a blind eye to those who were sneakily snooping around. Chapter 55-52. They didn't expect that after 4 days, the first to run to their bamboo building to cause a ruckus was actually Darling Mo's family. Looking at the malicious glint in that fat ball-like couple's eyes, it was clear that they were happily plotting something. Arbor didn't say anything, but that fat ball-like man spoke up again. One was playing the good cop, while the other was playing the bad cop. Both of them were up to no good. The woman demanded an exorbitant price and demanded their entire house. The man answered with a fake smile, "My wife is insensible. Please forgive her. Actually, your bamboo building has 2 floors, so it's quite spacious. Our family of 3 can take a bit of a loss. We only need 2 of the rooms." Princess Wuxia rolled her eyes and said while hugging the baby, "Our 2-floor building only has a dozen or so rooms, so it's very cramped for over 30 people. Apologies, there's no room for you." The fat ball-like woman was enraged. "This is compensation. Get your facts straight. We didn't come here to ask for your opinion. This is the compensation for the consultation fee that you must pay us." Compensation. She liked these 2 words. Arbor's eyes brightened when he heard this. Everyone couldn't help but laugh inwardly when they saw the little stoic's expression. Mo Lien was standing close to Duanyu, so when he saw Jojo's expression, he reflexively glanced at Darling Mo. This child's eyes also brightened. It was as if he was carved from the same mold as his mother. Other than his pair of phoenix eyes resembling the fiendish Mo Lien, he resembled his mother in every other aspect. However, his mother was stubborn and never admitted it. "Jojo's Lien, come here quickly." Arbor turned around and beckoned him over. Someone came to snatch Jojo's house, so they had to compensate. Mo Lien twitched his mouth and floated to his wife's side. He asked seriously, "Wife, what do you need hubby's help with?" Arbor quickly nodded. "Your son instigated his classmates to beat people up, and after beating the young one, the old one came. Since their parents came knocking, then you can only step forward as their father and beat them up to vent their anger." Mo Lien, "Wife, you're so good to me." When his son was struck by lightning, his father blocked it. When his son hit someone, his father stepped forward and was beaten up by the other party's parents. Mo Lien glared at Jojo with a pair of misty, almond-shaped eyes. She had an accusatory expression on her face. "Wife, you've changed." "It's nothing." Jojo looked away guiltily and patted the back of his hand. "I'll ask them for compensation after the fight." It seemed like it had been a long time since someone had sent him compensation. When he suddenly mentioned the word compensation, his heart itched. Mo Lien took 2 steps forward and stood expressionlessly in front of the fat ball couple. "Go ahead." The couple was baffled. They looked at each other and couldn't understand what was going on. Mo Lien was instantly enraged. A beam of black flames shot out with a whoosh and swept towards the fat man. "You don't want to fight? If you don't want to fight, I'll do it." Everyone looked at each other, dumbfounded. He saw that Mo Lien's movements were extremely fast. He extended his leg and kicked the fat man away. The fat ball woman's heart-wrenching scream came from beside them. Glancing over, they saw that ball-shaped woman quickly dashing out with her son. It looked like she was rushing forward to help her husband out of this predicament. Arbor glanced at them and shook his head with a sigh. He muttered to himself, "Hubby's temper is getting worse. So fiery." He was like a small firecracker that ignited at the slightest spark. He walked to Duanyu's side and reached out to take his son. He said earnestly, "Don't learn from your father." Duanyu. Chapter 55-53. Mother, the fat classmate is really a bully. When we were studying, he used the spirit snake to scare Xiaohua and the rest. Arbor looked down at his son. "Mother believes you. But if you encounter this kind of situation in the future, you can use a better method to resolve it." "Okay. Then I'll think about it in the future." Baby Mo looked at his mother with sparkling eyes. Mother, why did that fat classmate's parents come to snatch our house? Because they are shameless. Arbor said expressionlessly, Mother painstakingly built this house. They reaped without sowing and only wanted to extort and extort. For this kind of person, we should make them bleed appropriately and spit out a bit of compensation. Because they wasted our time on these senseless matters, they have to compensate us whether it is the cost of our time or the mental damage. Princess Wushuang's mouth twitched, sister-in-law's words seemed to make a lot of sense. Baby Mo's eyes were sparkling as he nodded repeatedly. Then why don't they build their own house? I strolled around the holy region today and felt that the people there are all very strange. Duan Yu and the rest couldn't resist laughing when Baby Mo recounted what he saw and heard today. Especially when he talked about the group of shills around the pancake seller grandpa, Baby Mo was filled with righteous indignation, which amused everyone to death. Arbor expressionlessly looked down at his son. Little furball, you can't report the old grandpa. Why? Didn't mother say that there is no difference between old and young bad people? The old grandpa isn't a swindler, and those around him aren't shills. Arbor thought about it and felt that it was a bit troublesome to explain, so he reflexively glanced at Duan Yu beside him and said solemnly, you say it. Duan Yu understood this girl too well. She had always been keen on tossing those time-wasting explanations to other people. He couldn't help but chuckle inwardly as he carried the chubby Baby Mo back. Little furball, adoptive father will tell you about the prices in the holy region. The little furball nodded. Okay. A moment later, Baby Mo finally figured out the prices here, and his face was full of lamentation. I didn't expect. This holy region's resources are so barren. One pancake costs 10 spirit stones, and people are madly fighting over it. The life of the people of the sanctuary was too difficult. It's hard to imagine. When everyone heard his old and heavy tone, they couldn't help but want to laugh. Especially when Lord Guangguang chimed in, then it's fortunate that we didn't report the old grandpa to Dongfang Yuzhu. Otherwise, wouldn't the old grandpa be finished? Dongfang Yuzhu? It couldn't be the one they were thinking of, right? Duan Yu facepalmed. Do you know where to find Master Dongfang? We asked for directions with the portrait. Sir Guangguang took out a crumpled piece of paper from his sleeve. Venerable Peach Blossom picked it up and took a look. He couldn't help but burst out laughing. The drawing is pretty good. But little dumpling, can you tell me what the 3 words beside it are? Arrest warrant. Baby Mo said in all seriousness. Seeing that everyone wanted to laugh, he hurriedly pointed at his mother. I've seen mother writing these 3 words on a stack of drawing paper. He was just following the pattern. Baby Mo had asked Daddy what a warrant for arrest meant, and Daddy had said that it meant to search for someone. Wasn't that the case? Stoic Qiao expressionlessly turned around and faced everyone with the back of his head. Everyone couldn't hold back their laughter. Chapter 55-54. Little Baby Mo turned to look at Duan Yu, who was close by, and asked in his childish voice, adoptive father, why are they laughing at mommy? Duan Yu answered seriously, they're not laughing at your mommy, they're laughing at you. Baby Mo put on a distressed expression and quietly said, then let them laugh. Who told them to be my elders? Sir Jojo couldn't resist curling his lips with his back facing his son. Duan Yu poked the child's forehead with a chuckle. In any case, life in the holy domain is quite arduous. Little furball, you can't compare our daily lives in the divine province with here, okay? The prices here are on the high side, so you can't report those old grandpas and grandmas you see selling things on the streets in the future. Baby Mo nodded and clenched his small fists. I understand. Mommy said that I have to go everywhere to gain experience. Only by continuously gaining experience can I become stronger. Moreover, we can't rely on the star domain. We can only be truly strong if we continuously become stronger ourselves. Princess Wuxia couldn't resist rolling her eyes as she quietly muttered, everyone else needs to become stronger, so you can rest a bit. This 4 or 5-year-old brat's current cultivation realm had already surpassed 99% of the people in the Divine Province, okay? Half a year ago, that oddball mother and son pair reached the phenomenal success stage of level 15 of the God realm at the same time. These days, little Furball was still prattling on and on about how he was stuck at level 15 of the phenomenal success stage for a long, long time. His cultivation realm had never remained stagnant for so long. If it weren't for the fact that he was her nephew, she wished for nothing more than to throw her shoe at his head. While everyone was chatting and laughing, they saw Mo Lien striding into the small bamboo garden and gesturing to Ma Shichen, who was standing on the side. Come and move it. Everyone was speechless for a moment. It seemed like this fellow had swindled a lot of things out of that fat ball and wife couple. When everyone went out, they saw a pile of sparkling spirit stones on the ground. Venerable Peach Blossom raised his brows. What do you want? Move it inside and put it in the courtyard. Mo Lien stood on the side and directed them. Put it in a conspicuous place. Right, just put it on the table. Pile it all up. Everyone put up a sign in front of the bamboo table and wrote the word compensation on it. Arbor looked very satisfied. In the future, if anyone dared to come to her bamboo house and make trouble, they would have to pay first. Since he had nothing to do, he decided to see if he should build a JoJo restaurant in the sanctuary. Even if she couldn't be the island master, she could at least be the tower master. Little dumpling, you have to go to school tomorrow, okay? Mo Lien glared at her son sternly. If you play truant again, I'll give you a good spanking. Baby Mo flopped into Duan Yu's arms and wailed, adoptive father. Why are you being so fierce? Duan Yu glanced at him irritably. It's not like Xiao Tuanzi is a disobedient child. Baby Mo nodded repeatedly, indicating that he was very obedient. Fu Yun sobbed at the side. Princess Wuxia was dumbfounded. She lowered her head and looked at her son. Son, why are you crying? I already said that I'm not yelling at you. Mother, are you especially hoping that I can suddenly grow 2 years older right now so that eldest brother and I can go to the academy together so that we won't bother you? Princess Wuxia inwardly mused, you can tell even this. Mother, the way you looked at my eldest brother just now was especially envious. Little Fu Yun wiped his tears and sobbed. Don't deny it. Chapter 55-55. Princess Wuxia pursed her lips. I don't want to deny it, I do think so. As soon as he finished speaking, Fu Yun started crying in a world-shaking manner. Princess Wuxia felt melancholy. She turned to glare at Third Fu. Her son was a crybaby. How could she accept this? Third young Master Fu hurriedly reached out to carry his son over and did not know whether to laugh or cry. All right, don't cry. Go and play with your brother. Think of it this way. Big brother still has to go to the school tomorrow, but you don't have to go. Do you feel better thinking of it this way? Baby Mo glared at Third young Master Fu angrily. How dare they build their happiness on top of his pain? Stop crying. A man bleeds, not tears. Baby Mo knocked Fu Yun's head. If you cry again, I'll change your name to Yu. Why? Because you keep crying. No, I can't have the surname Xiao. My father's surname is Fu. Then I'll call you Fu Yu. Fu Yun stopped crying obediently. He felt that the name Big Brother gave him was too ugly. He should just forget about it. Big Brother, is the school fun? I'm telling you, I can guarantee that you won't want to go there again after going there once. Baby Mo raised his chin proudly and strode into the bamboo building with his short legs. Why? Do you think it's like the school in China? There are classes, study rooms, clean windows and a group of friends. Isn't it? No. Baby Mo said angrily. They say it's a school, but it's just a sign by the road with the words Boy Branch of the Sacred Academy written on it. I sat on the ground with a dozen of my classmates. There was white fog all around us. We couldn't see the people 3 feet away from us. Then what should we do? What else can we do? Let's sit in a circle with the teacher in the middle and listen to his nagging. Teacher taught us how to draw today. Little brother, I'll draw you one later. Baby Mo's eyes suddenly lit up. He pulled Fu Yun's hand and entered the house. Big brother, can you draw a stick of candied haws for me? Don't you have candied haws in your inner world? Before they came to the Holy Land, the children were already prepared. They had happily collected a lot of snacks a few days in advance and put them all in their own inner worlds. Little Fu Yun was about to cry. Mother said I can't eat it. Mother said that we came to the sacred region to train, and the first thing we have to train is to starve. Your mother is just scaring you. We are children. The most important thing for children is to grow taller. How can we grow if we don't eat? You've been deceived by little ant again. Baby Mo analyzed the situation logically. As his number one fan, Lord Guangguang nodded furiously. That's right. Let's eat. Don't cry, big brother will treat you to meat. Baby Mo patted Fu Yun's head and pulled out a lunchbox from the star domain. Do you want some cloud flower cake? Fu Yun and Lord Guangguang nodded in unison. Not long after, Stay Up Late came to Arbor to report that the 3 children were happily eating in their room. Everyone didn't find it strange. They only stole glances at their Charles. Arbor said expressionlessly, "Oh, it's already time for dinner. Let's eat." Princess Wushuang's mouth twitched. Chapter 55-56. The next day, Mo Lien happily sent his son away. He took his wife's hand and said with a smile, "Jojo, let's walk around too." "All right." Arbor nodded. Since he planned to open a Jojo's restaurant in the Holy Land, he naturally had to walk around and look at the place. Arbor told Mo Lien about his plan. Mo Lien's phoenix eyes lit up slightly. "Jojo, you can't stand it anymore, can you? You want to lead the people of the Holy Land to become rich?" Lord Jojo looked at his husband expressionlessly. "You're thinking too much." He was sure that he wasn't overthinking things. He knew Xiao Qiao very well. She must be thinking, why don't these idiots of the Holy Land even know how to build a house? Or perhaps, the people of the Holy Land actually live such a miserable life. How did they get to where they are today with their cultivation base of the transcendent realm? Trash, 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 a bunch of trash. Lord Jojo's small face did not show any expression. He took a few steps forward and suddenly turned his head to look at his husband suspiciously. "You've been staring at Jojo with strange eyes." Mo Lien's eyes lit up. He quickly floated to his wife's side and raised his hand to pick her up. He smiled and said, "Wife, I know that you're a person with a hard mouth but a soft heart. You must have thought of a good way to rebuild this broken place, right? These people don't have the Holy Spirit in their hands, so they're not willing to build a house to make themselves more comfortable. It's strange. Although some people might have their own storage spiritual artifacts and could go in to catch up on sleep, not everyone had them. Teach a man to fish rather than give him a fish." Lord Jojo snorted and said, "The water, wood, and earth spirit talismans I drew now contain the power of the Holy Spirit. If they use it to build a house, 1 spirit talisman is enough for a single room, and 2 spirit talismans for a double room. If you want to build a small bamboo house like ours, 10 talismans will suffice." Instead of racking his brains to think of ways to steal Jojo's house, he might as well save some money and buy a talisman to make himself. "Jojo, you're too good to them," Mo Lien said with a smile. Son, where did you say you were going to school? It seems to be. The two of them walked along the white fog, and suddenly heard a sudden noise. Soon, he saw several figures flying over within 3 feet of him. The person at the front was carrying a boy in his arms and was running towards them. Behind him were dozens of men, each of them moving at lightning speed, pouncing over like arrows. Xiao Mu calmly pulled her husband and flashed back 2 steps. The dozen or so men shouted in unison and threw out a spirit-locking rope, grabbing the person at the front. More than a dozen people swarmed up and pressed the man who was holding the boy to the ground. Hold him down, this is outrageous. Li Yang rushed over anxiously and shouted in exasperation. Following behind him was a handsome young man. He looked around and frowned. When he looked up, he suddenly saw Mo Lien and her husband. The young man immediately smiled and hurried over to greet them. Your Excellency Mo Lien, Madam Mo, you're here too. Master Dongfang has something to do, you don't have to worry about us. Mo Lien nodded at him calmly. Chapter 55-57. Ah, it's nothing serious. Master Dongfang politely salutes the two of them. A large wave of ascended cultivators came to the sacred region a few days ago, and all of them were powerful cultivators. This matter naturally alarmed the stewards of the sacred region. Master Dongfang and Master Bei Bei are the only 2 stewards left. On the day Mo Lien and the others came, the 2 of them came to visit them together. It was a test, and also a friendly relationship. The motto of Mo Lien and the others is that as long as they don't take the initiative to look for trouble, they won't bother. Master Jojo looks at the dozen people pressing the man holding the child to the ground and frowns. What are they doing? Madam, don't worry. We don't want to make things difficult for them. It's just that according to the rules of the sacred region, this Mr. Liang wants to break through the barrier and send his child out. He must be punished. Arbor doesn't know what's going on, so he can only stand aside and watch. The man surnamed Liang has already been caught by the others. A pillar of earth rises from the ground. Li Yang retracts his palm and roars, press it. Hit. At the same time the whip falls, the man surnamed Liang cries out, let me go, let me go. You want to force our family to death. Master Dongfang, do you have any pity or sympathy? Master Dongfang sighs and shakes his head with a heavy expression. No one can try to open the natural barrier of the sacred region. Everyone who ascends to the sacred region can't go back. You know that. Arbor says in his heart, no wonder the Saint-grade summoning talisman I drew may not be able to summon the people of the sacred region one by one. Back then, to be able to attract rotten peach blossoms, what kind of luck did he have? Sob, the man cries out and mutters to himself nervously, if I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have given birth to the child with Ahua back then. Child, it's father who harmed you, child. Child. The boy is only 7 or 8 years old. He's so thin that he's just skin and bones. There's no flesh on his small face. His whole body is curled up in Li Yang's hand, trembling. Master Dongfang, can I ask you something? Madam, please speak. Dongfang Yu was very polite to Mo Lien and her husband. It couldn't be helped. The strength of this young woman's husband was unfathomable. Even he himself couldn't see through his cultivation. At such a young age, he had already surpassed Master Dongfang's immortal venerable realm cultivation. It was truly hard to describe. Why is this person trying to break the barrier and send the child to the lower realm? I'm ashamed to say this, but it's all because of the lack of resources in the Saint region. This child looked like he hadn't even broken through to the spirit realm. I can't fast for a long time, so I'm so hungry that I'm all skin and bones. Master Dongfang said with a sigh. Arbor blinked. Did he want to escape from prison because of hunger? Who would believe such a thing? The child of a transcendent realm expert could not survive in the holy realm and had to escape prison to make a living. Arbor couldn't help but look up at her husband. Although her husband didn't say anything, he couldn't suppress the smile on his face. Why was he holding back his laughter? Lord Jojo rolled his eyes and took a step forward. He's been punished. I think he knows that he's in the wrong. Since it's the rules of the Holy Realm, everyone has to abide by them. However, under the law, there's nothing more than human feelings. This Mr. Liang is also doing this because he loves his son. Master Dongfang nodded. Madam is right. Chapter 55-58. Master Dongfang waved his hand with a solemn expression and had Li Yang bring his men to untie Mr. Liang. Mr. Liang, who was a mystique venerable, cried bitterly and reached out to hug his son. He sobbed, "Master, kill me, Master. Master, please kill me. I really can't take it anymore. I can't bear to watch my son die tragically on the spot." Ah! Although Master Dongfang wanted to keep his handsome face straight, he could not hold it in for a long time. His entire body collapsed. Nonsense! Master Dongfang squeezed out these two words after holding it in for a long time. Arbor could not help but ask Jojo's Lotus in a low voice, "Husband, are these people mentally retarded?" Mo Lien held back the smile on her lips and coughed softly. "Jojo, you have to understand them." "I can't understand." Arbor's face was full of astonishment. He also lowered his voice and said, "These people are all transcendents. The lowest is Mystique Venerable. They're actually living so miserably in such a broken place. How could this be tolerated? But think about it. This place is surrounded by white fog. There's no vegetation around, and sunlight can't penetrate in. They can't grow crops or grow rice. Naturally, there's less and less food to eat day by day. Some people have been in the holy region for decades. Even if there's food in their inner worlds, it should have been eaten by their children long ago." Mo Lien whispered beside his wife, "It's not difficult for them to abstain from eating for a year and a half when they've reached Mystique Venerable, but their children can't. No wonder Mr. Liang cried so miserably." Arbor stood there and observed for a long time. He realized that Mr. Liang was like a person with a mental illness. If there was a rope in front of him at this moment, he would definitely go up and commit suicide. He did not look like the high and mighty transcendence in the eyes of the world. Ridiculous! Mr. Liang threw himself beside his master and cried bitterly. In the end, it was Li Yang who could not stand his miserable wails. He took out 2 hard steamed buns from his inner world and threw them to him. It could be considered as charity or a gift. Arbor took a look and felt his mouth go dry. The dried and petrified appearance of the steamed bun was a little scary. To actually be able to chew on such a thing, he could be said to be a ruthless person. Arbor thought for a moment and said, "I have some winter fruits here." Mr. Liang jumped in front of Arbor with a whoosh. His eyes were practically shining. "Yes, yes, yes. Young madam, name your price." Arbor said expressionlessly, "I don't need spirit stones or spirit tools. Take a look at what forging materials you have on you." Recently, her family's small cauldron lacked good forging materials to feed it. Although the 9 stars were lit up, the crescent moon in the middle was still dim. It was said that there were not many other things in the Holy Realm, but there were a lot of ores and materials. Presumably, these transcendent realm experts had nothing to do, so they would dig and mine for materials. Xiao Mu's words simply struck a chord with this Mr. Liang. What is the most abundant thing in Mr. Liang's inner world? Refining materials were the most abundant. But what was the use of these things? Firstly, he did not know how to refine weapons, and secondly, it was useless. To be able to exchange materials for food was simply overjoyed for him. "Yes, yes, yes. I still have Xian Spirit Jade here. Do you want it, madam?" Arbor's eyes lit up. Xian's spirit jade could be used to feed the holy wood, water, or holy beasts. Naturally, the more the better. Sure, she said calmly. Chapter 55-59. She took out a bag of winter fruits from her inner world. Mr. Liang cried tears of joy and almost knelt down in front of Madame Mo. Madam, you're my son's reincarnated parent. Mo Lian's lips twitched, and she hurriedly stopped him. Don't. We have a son. Mr. Liang wiped his tears and hurriedly poured out a pile of materials from his inner world. Arbor hurriedly stopped him. It's enough, there's no need for so much. It's a fair deal, and my bag of winter fruits isn't anything expensive. Just give me 5 black-level materials or 1 earth-level material. Mr. Liang was so touched that tears welled up in his eyes. He felt that these materials were useless, and the bag of winter fruits that this kind little madam gave him probably weighed 5 kilograms. It was enough for his son to eat for more than half a month. Madam, you've saved my life, and you've given me a new lease on life. Take these, and these. This is just a small token of my appreciation. Arbor looked at him speechlessly. You should keep some for yourself. Tomorrow, I'll open the first pavilion of the Holy Region in the center of the Eastern region. It specializes in selling food and fruits. If you're interested, you can come and take a look. I'm interested, I'm very interested. Mr. Liang nodded and hurriedly said, Madam, you don't know, but the barrier of the Holy Region is very powerful. Once you enter, you can't leave. Do you have a lot of food? You have to think about the future. Mr. Liang glanced at Jojo. He couldn't tell what realm he was at. He looked at Mo Lian and couldn't see through her. Both of them were probably at a higher realm than him. Judging from their age, they looked to be in their early 20s. Presumably, they were talented and intelligent people. Now that they had ascended to the Holy Region, the young couple was still insensible. They were squandering the food resources in their inner world now, and didn't know how miserable they would be in the future. As an experienced person, Mr. Liang felt that he should give this young couple some advice. Madam, you have to hold back. You can't sell all the food. In the Holy Region, those materials are worthless. The most expensive thing is the ingredients. I'm afraid you two don't know. It was 30 years ago when I ascended to the Saint Domain. Mr. Liang said affectionately. He lifted his chin slightly, and the corners of his eyes were a little moist. At that time, I was so high-spirited and wanted to make a big career out of it. Master Dongfang couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Were there so many drama queens in the Eastern region? Unfortunately, the sacred region is shrouded in fog all year round, and no sunlight can be seen. My wife and I fell in love with each other vigorously. I thought that it would add color to our monotonous life. Who knows, I only know what it means to be miserable after I have a baby. Mr. Liang couldn't help but cry when he spoke of his misery. Madame Mo said expressionlessly, she's already given birth, you can't put it back. That's right. Mr. Liang nodded. All these years, I've been filled with regret. The child can't be sent out of the sacred region, and his aptitude is not good enough. He's already 8 years old, but he still hasn't broken through to the spirit realm and hasn't been able to eat. He's so skinny and sallow from hunger. As his father, I feel bitter just looking at him. Young madam, as someone who has been through this before, I still want to give you some advice. If you can keep some food. In the future, even if you and your wife don't need it, your child will. Chapter 55-60. Madame Mo really wanted to tell this fellow in front of her that her child didn't need it either. As someone who had half a foot in the transcendent realm, her child really had no problem not eating for a year and a half. But looking at this transcendent realm cultivator's miserable appearance, Madame Mo still chose to remain silent. It was better not to attack others anymore. Her husband had once said a few years ago that she must not tell others about refining countless pills in one night to avoid being beaten to death. This was called flaunting one's wealth. Flaunting one's wealth really shouldn't be done. Actually, you can eat fasting pills. Mr. Liang slapped his thigh. Yes, but fasting pills will decrease the more you eat them. Now, a fasting pill is sold at a sky-high price. After all, this place was barren, so it was impossible to harvest raw materials. The fasting pills in everyone's hands were all brought up from the lower realm, so they naturally had fewer pills. Even if there were heaven-grade alchemists in the holy region, they couldn't cook without rice. It wasn't like he could make pills out of thin air, right? Arbor looked at him expressionlessly. Do you want them? Mo Lien, Master Dongfang hurriedly walked forward and looked at the little stoic with shining eyes. Madam Mo, if you have extra fasting pills, can you give a few to me? I'm willing to use 10 black-grade forging materials to exchange for 3 fasting pills. Sure. Arbor nodded. Mr. Liang was excited. I'll use 30 to exchange for 9 pills. Okay. Arbor thought for a moment and still had Chuchio pick out 12 fasting pills from the basket and put them in a box. He took them out and handed them to the two of them. You can divide them yourselves. Master Dongfang accepted 3 pills with a smile and handed the remaining box to Mr. Liang. Mr. Liang looked embarrassed and whispered while holding the box, "Little madam, do you want to keep some for yourself?" Arbor thought to himself, I should have taken out the whole basket of fasting pills for them to see just now. Then they wouldn't be so embarrassed. These fasting pills were all made by my son for fun. None of them had any use for these fasting pills, so they were just sitting around and looking at them. After bidding farewell to Master Dongfang and the others, Arbor tilted his head and looked at Mo Lien. Why don't we stop selling cooked food and just sell some ingredients and fruits? He could even sell fasting pills. I really didn't expect this. The corners of Mo Lien's eyes twitched. Half a year ago, his son became obsessed with alchemy. Every day, he squatted beside the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron and refined this and that. Every time he refined a large number of pills, they were all useless. What fasting pills, detoxification pills, etc. Her son had refined too many of these things and threw them all into baskets. Baskets after baskets were thrown into the storehouse. Alas! Arbor let out a long sigh and said regretfully, I didn't realize we were so rich before. Now that we're here, the contrast between us and these starving people is too stark. Mo Lien mumbled softly, it's always been distinct. It was just that the people of the 3 states had never been so miserable. Their misery had been greatly magnified here, as well as Jojo's wealth. I hope I can feed the small cauldron until it is completely bright. In this way, the refining speed of the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron, as well as the quality of the pills, and the success rate, would definitely increase. Master Jojo's little abacus rang loudly in his heart. He couldn't help but smile. The holy region was indeed a good place. Jojo was starting to like this place. What should he do? Since there were so many materials here, Jojo had to send people to mine them. He heard that the spirit stone mines here were like cabbages. Chapter 55-61. Only when a holy stone mine was mined would it attract many cultivators to fight over it. After all, it was closely related to one's cultivation level. No one would not care. The two followed the white fog and walked forward hand in hand for a while. Mo Lien smiled and said, I see the sign. The wooden sign of the boy branch of the Sacred Academy was floating up and down in the thick fog. There didn't seem to be anyone in front. The couple wanted to see their son on the way, but after walking one round, they didn't see a single student. A middle-aged man in a blue robe appeared in the thick fog beside them. Seeing the two of them, he was obviously stunned. Then, he cupped his hands and said, you are. Oh, we came to see how the children of the boy branch are doing in school. The middle-aged man smiled bitterly. Today, the boy branch ended school early. The two of you must be here to look for your children. I'm afraid you've already gone back. Xiao Mu blinked her eyes, and a bad premonition instantly surfaced in her heart. She felt that her son seemed to be up to no good again. You're a teacher. My surname is Wang. Teacher Wang. Teacher Wang waved his hand and said, I'm a teacher of the youth branch. Today, I'm here to replace Teacher Zhang of the boy branch to go to a student surnamed Mo's house to understand the situation. Mo Lian's mouth twitched, and she silently glanced at her wife. Xiao Mu hastily asked, did something very serious happen? Teacher Wang of the youth branch smiled bitterly and said, the two of you are here to look for your children, so I might as well be frank. Today, that student surnamed Mo led a group of students to play truant. Mo Lien, both of your children should have gone with them. If you want to find your children, you have to find that student surnamed Mo first. By the way, what's the name of your children? Mo Xiao, Sir Jojo said expressionlessly. Teacher, after talking for so long, the two of you are the parents of that student surnamed Mo who led the mischievous students. Teacher Wang was furious. Young master, madam, do you know? Today, not only did your child bring a group of children to roast sweet potatoes during her free time, but she also brought a group of children to roast sweet potatoes. She even skipped school with all the children. Mo Lien coughed and hurriedly said, I didn't know before, but now I know. Don't worry, teacher. When we go back, we will definitely discipline that child good. Jojo remained expressionless. The child is hungry. These words made the couple blush a little. Their child had already abstained from eating. However, according to Jojo's tradition, 3 meals a day were unavoidable. I am indeed hungry. Sigh, I know that the conditions in the sacred region are tough. The children have also suffered, but if they don't study hard now and become illiterate, they will only suffer more in the future. Oh, by the way, I heard from Teacher Zhang that your child is extraordinarily intelligent and has a keen aptitude. He is indeed very intelligent, but he can't lead a group of students to skip class. Mo Lien nodded repeatedly. Teacher, you're right. I'll teach him a lesson later. Then, do you know where your child will go? I do. Arbor nodded, and 3 revealed talismans instantly shot out from his fingertips. The air in front of them distorted slightly, and they stirred up like water ripples. Soon, the dozen or so children who were roasting sweet potatoes in a circle appeared in the invisibility talisman array. Baby Mo was holding a sweet potato in his hand, and he exchanged a look with his stoic mother. Chapter 55-62. Our dear baby Mo floated all the way back by himself, and he even floated away like a thief. As soon as he reached the court's entrance, he wailed bitterly and looked for his foster father. Duan Yu had just walked out of the room when he saw a child rapidly plummeting from midair and leaping into his arms with a whoosh. Foster father, save me. This little imp wailed prettily and wailed loudly on all fours. What happened? Duan Yu quickly hugged him. Baby Mo scrunched up his miserable little face and whined while sobbing, Mommy and Daddy beat me. They beat me all the way back home. They're especially fierce. Foster father, little Furball's heart is very bitter. Duan Yu almost couldn't hold back his laughter. Barely suppressing the smile on his lips, Duan Yu hugged him straight. Little Furball, what did you do this time? Baby Mo scrunched up his small face and pitifully said, Little Furball treated my classmates to sweet potatoes. Treating your classmates to sweet potatoes is a good thing. Why would Mommy punish you? I used an invisibility talisman matrix. Our dear baby Mo quietly muttered, Teacher Zhang was so anxious that he searched everywhere for us. So you're being naughty again, right? Duan Yu poked his forehead lightly. Meanwhile, the stoic Xiao approached Bamboo Garden with her small paws behind her back and hollered, "Mo Xiao. Come down." Everyone kept quiet out of fear. Our dear baby Mo timidly climbed down from his foster father's body and pitifully shrunk to the side with his small paws. Arbor angrily demanded with a frosty expression, "Do you admit your wrongs?" Baby Mo sobbed on the side while Sir Guangguang wiped his tears with him. "Do you think it's very fun to tease the teacher?" Arbor angrily retorted, "It's fine if you're naughty, but you brought a group of children to fool around with you. Tell me, are you wrong or not?" "Jojo," Mo Lien meekly called out. "Shut up!" Mr. Jojo interrupted angrily. Poor Mr. Mo quickly shut his mouth and did not dare to make a sound. After sending her son a helpless look, Mo Lien quietly moved to Duan Yu's side, and the two of them secretly exchanged a look. The clueless Duan Yu, "What's going on?" Mo Lien, "Oh no, oh no. Our son has really offended his mother this time. Usually, your grandparents spoiled you, and your uncles and aunts all let you do whatever you want. I've spoiled you to the heavens. You don't even know the simple principle of respecting your teacher. Do you still think it's right?" Arbor reprimanded harshly. There was complete silence all around. "Everyone in school calls you Big Brother leader. How awe-inspiring. Who are you leading? What Big Brother? If the parents of those children can't find their children today, what will you do? Are talisman matrices for you to use blindly like this?" Supremacy Peach Blossom and Holy Sun Mi Yen, who had heard the news, glanced suspiciously at Duan Yu and Mo Lien. Mo Lien secretly waved her hand at them, meaning not to poke the hornet's nest. Jojo was currently in a fit of anger, so whoever tried to persuade him would be unlucky. Whoever went up would be looking for a beating. Our dear baby Mo was a bit scared out of his wits when he saw his mother harshly reprimanding him like this for the first time. After staring blankly for a long time, he saw that his mother had finished lecturing him and angrily turned to enter the room, slamming the door with a bang. The child started bawling and aggrievedly turned his small head to look in his daddy's direction. Chapter 55-63. How would Mo Lien dare to oppose his wife just now? If he dared to speak up for his son, he would definitely be bombarded by his wife's verbal barrage. She might even dig up the matter of him spoiling his brother-in-law back then and give him another scolding. When he saw his son looking at him with teary eyes, his heart instantly softened, and he hastily walked up to pick up the sobbing little fella. Oh you, why are you so naughty? You caught your mother red-handed." Ma Shichen was exasperated. "Daddy, what do we do now?" Baby Mo asked while sobbing. His pair of phoenix eyes were wide open as he stared at his father. "Mommy is ignoring me." Baby Mo wailed pitifully, "Does mommy not want little furball anymore?" "How could that be?" Mo Lien quickly consoled, "Mommy is only angry at you for being naughty. If you obediently and sensibly apologize to mommy, then mommy will definitely forgive you." Baby Mo blinked his watery eyes and nodded repeatedly. "I'll go apologize right now." The little fella pressed a hand to his chest and cried bitterly, "Godfather, whenever little furball thinks about how mommy will ignore little furball in the future, little furball's heart hurts so much." Duan Yu and the others couldn't resist twitching their mouths. They were originally quite worried, but when they saw this clown, they couldn't help laughing in exasperation. "Do you want Daddy to go in with you to admit your mistake?" It was hard being a father. Fathers had to take the blame for their sons' mistakes. Baby Mo shook his head solemnly. "Forget it, your son will bear the consequences of his own actions. I'll go by myself. You all stay here and don't move." Duan Yu's mouth twitched. This child was quite loyal. Everyone was both amused and annoyed as they watched him stride forward with his short legs. With a heroic look on his face, he ran to the second floor of the small bamboo building and knocked on Jojo's door. Baby Mo peeked his head out uneasily and peeked inside the room. At that time, Sir Jojo was leaning against a brocade couch and absent-mindedly flipping through a book. He was thinking, was I too strict with my son just now? Xiao Tuanzi was still young and was at the age when she was naughty and playful. Thinking about her when she was 7 or 8 years old, she was also so mischievous. She even went around beating people with a ruler. How should he explain this, mother? Mo Baobao's childish voice called out, and he ran in with his short legs. He knelt down in front of Jojo, giving her a fright. The little guy raised a ferrule over his head with both hands, blinked his eyes, and said with a serious face, "Mother, beat your son. Don't be angry after beating up your son." Arbor didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but his little face was still tense. "Get up." She reached out and picked him up, saying indifferently, "Don't kneel here and there for no reason." Baby Mo said in a childish voice, "Isn't it natural to kneel to the heavens, to kneel to the earth, and to kneel to our parents and teachers?" "Mother, you don't have to feel embarrassed. I'll give you the ruler." Hit him hard. Arbor was so infuriated that she laughed. She lifted him to her face and smacked his butt. Who feels embarrassed? Baby Mo took advantage of the situation to roll into his mother's arms and hugged his mother and rubbed against her. "Mother, Xiao Tuanzi knows his mistake. I won't dare to do it again in the future. How about this, if mother still feels angry, I'll call daddy in and let mother beat him up, how about that? You really are a filial son." Arbor couldn't help but laugh in anger. Chapter 55-64. Your father cheated your grandfather, and you cheated your father. This may be the Mo family's tradition. Sir Jojo rubbed his son's soft head and said faintly. The boy's eyes lit up. "Mother, you're not angry anymore. Don't do it again." The boy nodded repeatedly. How would he dare to do it again? Who knew that joking with the teacher would provoke his mother's anger? The boy would never dare to do it again. "Mother, a classmate fainted from hunger while studying." Arbor was silent. "That's why I brought everyone to roast sweet potatoes. The students all say that the sweet potatoes I roast are fragrant and sweet. Everyone loves to eat them. But you can't fool the teacher. Make an invisibility talisman array and make it easy for people to find you." Arbor placed her son in front of her and held his little hand. "If the boy suddenly disappears, don't you think mother and father will be worried?" "Yes. So, put yourself in their shoes. If the parents of your classmates find out that their children have mysteriously disappeared, won't they be worried?" The boy blinked and nodded repeatedly. "Mother, I'm wrong. So before we do anything, we have to think carefully and maturely before we decide to take the next step. Mother knows that Xiao Tuanzi actually knows everything and has learned everything. You've learned everything the teacher taught." Arbor reached out and rubbed her son's head. "Mother just hopes that our family's little dumpling can go to school to meet new friends. Grow up happily like an ordinary child and don't come into contact with the troublesome matters of imperial power too quickly." The boy nodded and his eyes suddenly lit up. "Then I'll invite my classmates to eat at our house next time. Is that okay?" "Of course." Xiao Mu smiled faintly. Xiao Tuanzi's eyes immediately brightened a bit, and he shouted, "Mother is smiling. Father, father, mother is smiling." The little dumpling loved his mother the most. "I love to see mother smile." Mo Lien paced outside for a while and finally couldn't help but push the door open and run in. He saw his wife sitting there with the child in her arms. Her eyes were crescent-shaped. She suddenly felt that her son's head was bright and shiny. She really wanted to throw this child out. Father Mo resisted the urge to abandon his child and quickly walked forward. He pulled his wife into his arms and said, "Wife, let me make it clear first. You can't vent your anger on me when you're angry with our son. Also, my son is my son, and I am me. A son's stupidity could be taught slowly. I'm a flower, and I need to be nourished." As he spoke, he took out a pot of black lotus from his inner world and showed it to Jojo. "Jojo, look at the pot of flowers you gave me. It's grown so well." Arbor reached out and hit him on the head. He couldn't help but smile. Baby Mo's eyes widened as he cried out angrily, "Daddy is shameless." Mo Lien increasingly felt that this child was truly too much of an eyesore by staying here at a time like this. "Go play with your uncles." Mo Lien carried the child to the door. Baby Mo clung to his arm and shook his head repeatedly. "No, I won't. I want to be together with mother. Mother, mother. Imperial grandmother. Imperial father wants to throw the boy away." Mo Lien said expressionlessly, "Your imperial grandmother is far away in the divine continent." Arbor got up and ran over. He took the child from Mo Lien's arms and glared at him. Chapter 55-65. Since his wife was glaring at him, Mo Lien had no choice but to turn around and glare at his son. Baby Mo refused to let go of Arbor and kept rubbing against her neck, calling out cutely, "Mommy, Mommy, Daddy is naughty." Mo Lien smiled faintly. "Do you want to be beaten?" This child was so annoying. Mo Lien carried the child over and placed him on the table at the side, then picked up his beloved wife. "Jojo, why did you hit me just now? Take a look at this pot of lotus you gave me. Is it well taken care of?" Arbor wanted to laugh, but she suppressed it and nodded seriously. "It's pretty good. Of course it's great. I've been taking good care of it." Mo Lien smiled and leaned closer to her, whispering, "You're not angry anymore. Mommy is definitely not angry anymore. Mommy loves little Furball the most. How can Mommy keep being angry at little Furball?" Baby Mo huffed and spun around Mo Lien's legs. He wanted to climb up, but his father didn't like him. How infuriating. "Wife, he's annoying." Arbor retorted exasperatedly, "You're the one who's annoying." Baby Mo's eyes lit up when he heard that, and he nodded repeatedly. Right, you're the annoying one, you're the annoying one. Don't always come and disturb me and Mommy in our two-person world. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have asked you to come and see Mommy's smiling face." Mo Lien's mouth twitched. Xiao Mu couldn't resist snickering before bursting into laughter. Father and son looked at her with smiles on their faces. Mo Lien smiled and said, "How about we put the first tower of the holy region aside for now? I think our son needs a school where he can squat. To prevent today's incident from happening again." It wasn't easy for him to send his son to school, so he wouldn't have to disturb the couple during the day. Could he still make him roll back here? Impossible. Hearing this, Baby Mo lay down beside the two of them and looked up to ask, "Mother, are you going to build a school for us?" Arbor thought for a moment and nodded. "Consider it a good deed. We'll build the Boy Branch Academy. When the time comes, you can come and help." "Yay!" Baby Mo nodded happily. The next day, the family of three went to the Sacred Academy and explained the situation to the dean. The dean was naturally overjoyed and nodded repeatedly to express his welcome. The two-story bamboo house that Jojo and the others lived in was now famous in the sacred region. There was no other reason. This was the first house ever built in the sacred region. Moreover, inside the house, the thick fog was isolated outside, so people could see more clearly. Such good news had suddenly descended upon the Academy of Holy Light. The dean was extremely excited. However, Arbor also said that they were only building the Boy Branch Academy for free. As for the Academy's juvenile and youth academies that needed to be built, the Academy would have to pay for them. The dean expressed his understanding. As long as the bamboo building could be built, it would be a great thing. The dean wasn't someone who didn't understand the ways of the world. He naturally knew that the other party was only building the Boy Branch Academy for free to give his son a better learning environment. Originally, everyone had thought that building the Boy Branch Academy would take at least 4 to 5 days. However, Jojo and the others had a lot of people and were very fast. In less than half a day, the construction of the Boy Branch Academy was completed. This really caused a stir in the sacred region. The Xiuzhe that came after hearing the news curiously surrounded the Boy Branch Academy. Chapter 55-66. The meddlesome cultivators secretly asked around and found out that Arbor had actually helped Sacred Institute build a boy branch for free. They couldn't help but feel envious. After decades of living in desolation, suddenly seeing a house made his heart itch unbearably. Everyone rushed forward to ask about the house. There were even more meddlesome cultivators who looked at Arbor in confusion, secretly asking, "Why does this madam's inner world seem to have an endless supply of bamboo? This madam seems to be a great talisman master." A middle-aged cultivator lowered his voice and said. Everyone was enlightened when they heard this. It turned out that these bamboo were brought up using storage talismans. But if they had many storage talismans, they would definitely bring more food, drinks, and daily necessities, right? This madam was really a weirdo, bringing so much bamboo in her storage talisman. Could it be that she knew before ascending that there were no houses to live in the sacred region? Just now, this madam said that the sacred region's first tower will be opened in the center of the eastern region tomorrow. If we are interested, we can go take a look. I heard that they will sell bamboo and jade talismans. Oh, right, they also said that they will sell ingredients. When everyone heard this, their eyes couldn't help but light up. Sell ingredients? This madam was sure she wanted to sell ingredients. Ingredients were very precious in the sacred region. The more one ate, the less one had. The sacred region was vast and sparsely populated, but in the entire eastern region, there were at least hundreds of thousands of cultivators. In all these years, although there were only a few tens of thousands of people who ascended to the sacred region, in addition to cultivation, they had given birth to many children. The eastern region now had the largest population in the sacred region. If all the cultivators in the eastern region heard the news and came to the sacred region's first tower to buy ingredients, the middle-aged cultivator who spoke couldn't help but shudder. The sacred region's first tower would collapse, right? Moreover, how many ingredients could they have and how many days could they sell them? 1 day or 2 days? Or 3 days? What a joke! A sarcastic laugh came from the crowd. The one who spoke was a female cultivator. She was thin like a bamboo pole, with corn-like eyes and an upturned nose. Her appearance was somewhat frightening. Arbor glanced at her, but didn't say anything. The dean personally sent everyone out of the boy branch and made an appointment with her to go to Sanctuary number 1 tomorrow afternoon to look at the price of the materials. Lady May, lower your voice. The surrounding Xiuzhe didn't want to offend Arbor's group. The female cultivator, however, was not the least bit afraid of Arbor and the others. She continued to mock them. What? Did I say something wrong? Anyone with a brain would know. This kind of boring consumption is meaningless. What are you showing off for? So what if this woman was an extremely rare grand talisman master in the saint level? It was common knowledge that talisman masters consumed a lot of time and energy to draw talismans. Since she was a great talisman master, she would naturally draw offensive and defensive talismans. Could it be that he could draw 1 or 2 storage talismans a day and gather a few hundred storage talismans to store things? Even if this talisman master had a few hundred storage talismans on him, how big could the storage talisman be? How long would she be able to supply the bamboo materials for? He was simply trying to please the crowd with claptrap. He deliberately came to attract the attention of the crowd to satisfy his vanity. Stoic face mother, there's someone staring at us. Guangguang Darren suddenly shouted. Ignore him. She was going to the center of the eastern region to build the sacred region's first tower. Proper business was more important, so she didn't have time to bother with miscellaneous people. Chapter 55-67. The female cultivator called Lady May saw that the people from Arbor were ignoring her and she couldn't help but get angry. However, seeing that they had already left quickly, she knew that she would only be asking for trouble if she chased after them. Thus, she could only turn around awkwardly. She wanted to see what these newly ascended people could do to the holy region. The holy region had been covered in white fog for hundreds and thousands of years. No one had ever said that they wanted to reform the holy region and build houses. Once these people arrived, they started causing trouble all day long. No one knew what they wanted to do. Master Dongfang seemed to be very respectful towards them. No one knew where these people came from. However, no matter where they came from, so what if you could break through the sky in the lower realm? Once you reached the holy region, you were like a blank piece of paper. Wouldn't you have to start all over again? Lady May. A gloomy and miserable voice made her stop in her tracks. Lady May turned around and saw an old woman with wrinkled skin and white hair. She couldn't help but smile. "Aunt Chow, have you come out of seclusion?" "Yes." The old woman walked forward slowly with her walking stick. She sized her up. "Why haven't you improved your realm in 10 years? Don't mention it." Lady May said with disappointment. 10 years is like a day. I'm stuck at the mystique venerable realm. I can't even take a small step forward. Maybe my talent isn't good enough. The old woman sighed. "Oh right, I saw that you looked gloomy just now. Did something happen?" Lady May looked at the old woman in front of her and her eyes lit up. She quickly walked forward and whispered something to the old woman. The old woman's eyes lit up. "Oh. There's such a thing. Aunt Chow." Lady May covered her mouth and laughed. She approached the old woman with a flirtatious expression. "Among the group of people who recently ascended to the holy region, I saw a few good-looking boys. They're the most suitable for Aunt Chow." The old woman's cloudy eyes lit up. She suddenly grabbed Lady May's hand. "Where do you think they're staying?" Lady May's lips curled up into a sinister smile. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? Just now, they dared to ignore me. Heh, I'll teach them a lesson tonight. Aunt Chow was someone who was about to step into the hierarch realm. Aunt Chow's methods were not something a mystique venerable rank junior like her could compare to. He had so many resources, yet he didn't know how to keep a low profile. Instead, he flaunted his wealth everywhere. That was courting death. Today, it was only Aunt Chow who was looking for trouble with them. Tomorrow, it might even be Aunt Li or Aunt Chang. Hee hee. Auntie Zhao loved to torture those young and beautiful men the most. Oh, right, if that arrogant stoic face dared to resist, who knew what cruel methods Auntie would use to punish her. When Lady May thought of this, she laughed happily. Not long after, a few inconspicuous little butterflies flew out from the crowd. He flapped his wings and happily returned to Arbor's side. Arbor stood to the side, watching stay up late and the others quickly build the first sacred building. He stretches out his finger to let the little butterflies fall into his hand. After receiving the message they sent, his eyes are so cold that they almost fall into ice shards. How long has it been? It had been a long time since someone dared to face his anger. Ever since the 3 states and the 4 seas were peaceful, no idiot dared to find trouble with the Empress of the Divine Lands. Today, they came. She wanted her to think about how she could repay them for their blindness. Chapter 55-68. Oh right, let her set up a Death 9 Palaces grid formation for them so that they could properly experience Sir Jojo's gratitude before they died. Jojo. Mo Lien flashed to his wife's side and hugged her in high spirits. Should we hang up the plaque now? It was only when he looked down that he realized his wifey's displeasure was written all over her face. What's wrong? Which idiot dared to anger his wifey? Nothing. Arbor shook his head. Bring the little dumplings and the rest to the star domain to sleep tonight. Mo Lien blinked. What's wrong? I want to deal with two people. Mo Lien exclaimed softly, putting on a good show. We've only been here for a few days, and someone in the holy domain is already so blind as to target Jojo. They're targeting your face. Arbor said expressionlessly. Mo Lien instantly hugged his wifey and suppressed his shock. Jojo, hubby is scared. Arbor, why did it feel like this guy was getting more shameless with each passing year? Wifey, you have to protect hubby well. You can't let hubby be bullied. Arbor nodded. Roll inside with Duan Yu and the rest tonight. Don't obstruct Jojo. Jojo is going to set up a Death 9 Palaces array. Anyone who steps into my array will die. Mo Lien twitched his mouth and revealed an expectant expression. Wifey, hubby can't stay by your side and watch. Arbor replied emotionlessly, no. Mo Lien, heartless. His darling was too heartless. What are you talking about? The house is finished. Come and take a look. Yechen's figure flashed and floated in front of the two. What's wrong? Jojo's expression is so serious. Jojo wants us all to return to the star domain tonight. Why? For the past few nights, because they had to put on an act, they had spent most of their nights in the bamboo house. Just as Mo Lien was about to speak, she saw stoic Jojo glancing at them resentfully. He heaved a long sigh and lamented endlessly, it's really so difficult to protect all of you. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched as they looked at each other in confusion. She took out dozens of thin, hand-sewn booklets from her sleeves. He Chen and Mo Lien both had a bad feeling, and the corners of their eyes twitched. Xiao Mu shuffled around and handed out pamphlets to everyone present. She raised her voice and shouted, copy. 50 times per person. Leave it to me tomorrow morning. Holy Sun Mi Yen lowered his head and looked at the booklet in confusion. For a moment, he didn't know which direction was which. What did he do wrong? How did he offend stoic Xiao? Why did he want him to copy quotes the moment he arrived? Last time, when he saw a rotten peach blossom copying quotes, he even mocked her. Was it his turn today? Feng Changqing and his brother, who were watching a good show and mocking Mo Lien, Duan Yu, and He Chen, were startled by the booklets Arbor handed out to them. They looked at him dumbfoundedly and asked in unison, we also have to copy? What did they do? Didn't they not do anything? They didn't violate the quotes. Arbor turned around and heaved a long sigh at the sky. You're all so worrisome. It was too difficult for her. She had to make them copy quotes from time to time to regain Jojo's spirit. Everyone, it was still our dear Duan Yu who meekly said, Jojo, I can memorize everything. If I memorize it, I won't copy anymore, right? Princess Wuxia couldn't hold it in and instantly burst into laughter. Chapter 55-69. Heavens, Cangzhou's emperor's pitiful expression was exceptionally hilarious. Mo Lien quickly nodded when he heard this. Right, I copied more than Duan Yu. I can even recite it backwards by now, Qiao. Let's have Feng Zhangqing, Feng Zhangfei, Little Taisui, and Duan Muqing, who have never copied before copy. Princess Wuxia laughed even more merrily. What do you mean recite backwards? Didn't eldest brother find himself comical when he said that? Little Taisui glared at Mo Lien, his face flushed red. He, the great Little Taisui, was actually being forced by this stoic little girl to copy some bullshit quotations. If news of this spread in the pugilistic world, he would definitely become a laughing stock. The two brothers, Feng Zhangqing and Feng Zhangfei, were also glaring at Mo Lien. Duan Yu and Venerable Peach Blossom Divinity nodded repeatedly, expressing their full support for Mo Lien. However, Jojo was very heartless and rejected Mo Lien's suggestion with a single "no" before turning around and leaving them with the back of his head. Hang up the plaque tomorrow. It's getting late, so you guys should go back early and pack up. Scram. Jojo would be left to guard the array's core alone and deal with those two disgusting people. Since it was an eyesore, then let Jojo be the eyesore alone. Everyone sullenly took a small booklet and copied it when they went back. Before leaving, they all resentfully sent Mo Lien a look that said, "Figure it out yourself." Mo Lien was the one who was sullen. His wife was stirring up trouble. It was fine if she didn't bring him along for such a joyous occasion tonight, but she actually made him obediently stay in the star domain to copy quotations. Heartless Jojo. After returning to the bamboo house, stoic Jojo dismissed everyone who obediently left and started setting up the array. A time delay array was set up outside. A 9 palaces fancy death array was set up inside. After Arbor finished setting up everything, he clapped his hands and sat in the bamboo house's main hall, waiting for those two idiots to arrive. Unexpectedly, Aunt Zhao and Aunt May were not the only ones who came. Lady May was surprised but also not surprised. She looked at the few familiar cultivators and nodded with a smile. She cupped her hands and said, "Since everyone has similar goals, why don't we go together?" An old man with 3 cheekbones squinted his cold eyes and said, "Oh. How are we going to distribute the resources we have obtained?" Aunt Zhao leaned on her walking stick and raised her chin arrogantly. She coldly glanced at the old man who spoke. "Chen Zhongming, don't put on airs in front of this old woman. When I ascended to the sacred region, you were still picking up potatoes to eat." The old man was provoked by her disdainful tone, and his eyes turned cold. However, the old woman's cultivation base was almost at the ultimate god realm. They were no match for her even if they worked together. But this time, if he couldn't get a share of the pie, how could he be satisfied? The inner worlds of these people must be very valuable. How about this? Those handsome young men will all belong to Granny. We only need 20% of the resources. What do you think? This Chen Zhongming seemed to be a tactful person. He was also very familiar with Aunt Zhao's preferences. Aunt Zhao heard this and didn't even move her eyebrows. She was as steady as a mountain. She sneered. "Why should I bring you along for something that I can do alone?" Chen Zhongming's anger accumulated. "Aunt Zhao, if this matter gets out of hand, no one will be able to live with it, right? After all, Master Dongfang Yu had explicitly prohibited the act of stealing resources in private." The old woman sneered. She seemed to have considered Master Dongfang Yu's words. She nodded and said, "All right then. But when it's time to act, don't drag me down." Chapter 55-70. Lady May laughed coldly in her heart. "Stoic face, I'll let you show off. Today, I'll teach you how to behave. Before you're strong enough, don't show off your wealth. House. This is such a good bamboo house. I, Lady May, will accept it." The group of people jumped into the bamboo garden casually. They weren't worried about making any noise and being discovered by Arbor. So what if they were discovered? With such a huge difference in strength, even if they were here to rob, the other party couldn't do anything about it. They could only obediently submit and hand over everything. Lady Zhao's eyes flashed with a hint of pride. After she led the group into the bamboo garden, she ordered casually, "Lady May, if anyone dares to disobey, kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Kill a few disobedient ones first." "You start first," the old woman said with a gloomy face. "HM. Did you hear me? What's wrong with Lady May? She followed behind and listened to me but didn't say anything. How dare she?" Lady Zhao turned her head and her pupils constricted. She saw an empty space behind her. Not far away, there was still the small bamboo garden door, but Lady Mei, Chen Zhongming, and the others had disappeared. In just a few breaths' time, she had been leading the group in front. How could Chen Zhongming, Lady Mei, and the others suddenly disappear? She quickly activated her defensive spirit artifact and looked around cautiously. Her old face was slightly distorted. "Who's there?" Lady Zhao shouted. However, the only response she got was the gentle wind that quietly blew by. The bamboo garden was completely silent. There was no one behind her. In front of her was a small two-story bamboo house. It wasn't too far away. Aunt Zhao shuddered inexplicably and wiped off her cold sweat. She jumped forward with a whoosh and rushed in the direction of the row of bamboo buildings. However, she quickly realized that something was wrong. Logically speaking, with her current speed, she should be able to reach the small bamboo house in a few breaths' time. However, she felt that she had run a distance of 4 to 5 miles. The small bamboo house was still a small bamboo house. It stood quietly in front of her, but it was still a distance away from her. Lady Zhao knew that something was wrong. She was careless and fell into the enemy's trap. It looked like the other party was prepared and had set up some kind of subtle formation in the courtyard, causing her to be trapped in it. As for Lady Mei, Chen Zhongming and the others, they were definitely in the same situation as her. They were all trapped in the bamboo garden's array formation. Ha! What an arrogant girl! He actually dared to use a formation to assassinate them. Did he think that a small array would be able to trap her? Those from the lower realm were from the lower realm, they had no common sense at all. How could a broken formation trap a cultivator who was about to step into the hierarch realm? Aunt Zhao waved her sleeves, and a ball of saint power shot out in all directions. Hearing the buzzing sound of vibrations everywhere, Aunt Zhao smiled coldly and continued to fly forward. Balls of saint energy were constantly being released from his hands, and they were constantly being blasted in all directions. A quarter of an hour later, she stopped, panting slightly. With an unsightly expression, she looked at the bamboo building, which was still some distance away. Why couldn't he use his saint energy to break through this damned formation? Aunt Zhao's eyes were filled with horror. What kind of broken formation was this? She didn't give up. This time, she retreated straight back. She planned to leave this damned bamboo garden first and set a fire outside to burn down this bamboo garden first. Balls of saint energy were constantly being used up. Drops of sweat the size of soybeans appeared on Aunt Zhao's face. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.